Actually, I was coming to sit next to you.
It took him 2 times to turn it on.
Notice that? Fine, I'm gonna be watching you close tonight.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for June 6, 2016. Mr. Cook, would you lead us in the Pledge of Flag?
Absolutely. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we have a jam-packed agenda tonight, so we're going to try to stick to the timing as best as possible, which includes 6:30 organization, Pledge of Allegiance, read mail, 6:35 several committee updates, starting with PMBC and the fire station update, heading into master plan update steering committee, then economic development committee, and lastly, Littleton Housing Authority. At 7:25, we'll have public input, members updates. 7:30, we'll have a public hearing for an all-alcoholic restaurant license for a restaurant down at the Point. 7:40, town board appointments, annual town board appointments, Conscom, CUA, CPC, LCTV, PMBC, and MART Advisory Board Representative. 8:10, Bennett Orchard Subdivision, 2 waiver requests, lots 3-5 Oak Hill Road and lots 8-28 Edward Drive. 8:20, annual review of Selectmen's policies and regulations. 8:40, a few items under Town Administrator, Assistant Town Administrator. That is an first one, intermunicipal agreement with Town of Boxborough for animal control and LCTV cable services. Second, police cops hiring program grant application. Third, police vehicle procurements. And last, establish special gift fund for veterans assistance. And we'll close the meeting out at 9 p.m. with other business and minutes approval. All right, so that takes us to the mail. Mr. Bergman.
Madam Chair, just a few items. One is a flyer that announces a workshop on the Complete Streets prioritization plan that we're going to have this Thursday, June 9th at 6:30 p.m. in this room. And that's a kickoff event. We are looking to have our prioritization plan in place by later this summer and look to submit a grant application for $400,000 for construction funding later on. Also, there's an invitation to the grand opening of the Courtyard Marriott Boston Littleton. That will be on Tuesday, June 14th at 5 p.m. at the Point. We have a letter which we received from the Planning Board on the topic of fire safety at 53 Air Road. We can receive the letter for now. We will be taking up a license request in the next month or so for the hydrogen fuel facility application of Air Liquide, which is to go at the behind the FIBA building, the back of the FIBA building in 53 Air Road. The Planning Board had some suggestions of things that we may want to get from the developer. We also have some further suggestions from the fire chief of things that we want to put on the table as well.
Madam Chair, may I?
Please.
We happen to have the chair of the planning board with us tonight, Mr. Scott. Just on this, based on this letter, what type of deliberations did you have for this parcel and this, I see the suggestions you made. Did you talk about it with the company?
I was reading this, I wasn't paying attention, Mr.
Okay.
Burton at the time, I'm sorry. But you're speaking of up at,
FIBA technology. Yeah,
53 Air
Sandra.
Road.
yeah, they're using some chemicals and such as that. We spoke about the retention pond and how they're gonna hold the water back if there is any leak and stuff like that, and it went well. The issue we're gonna end up having, I believe, is when it comes time for a permit to be issued to them, someone needs to be somewhat responsible for procurement of some safety devices for the fire department. That Tom Clancy, through one of his trips overseas, in France, I believe, came upon some apparatus that is necessary to combat these chemicals.
Did you,
It's not extremely expensive either, but we think someone should be able to step up to.
Sure. Did you have those discussions with the people too, about the
Yes,
apparatus?
We did, and they're kind of hemming and hawing between, he said, she said, who's gonna foot the bill.
There are actually two entities that have been in front of the planning board, I know, and the Air Liquide is one, but also this G-Nova powders is the other operation, and they are sort of, the main event is Air Liquide though.
Yeah.
And the approval of the G-Nova was not subject to all the conditions that Air Liquide will have to have. So I know the planning board approved the G-Nova with a short list of requirements, but the longer list will need to come from Air Liquide, and we will have the opportunity to do that when they come in front of us in the next month or two
Okay.
for permitting.
And if I may, Madam Chair, Chief, what was your research and what did your deputy come back with? Just give us a little insight as to.
With some of the training that he had in France, we were able to locate a few different types of hydrogen meters that weren't necessarily available over here. So between that and some additional training for the hydrogen, for the awareness, and if there are leaks, and even more so the vehicles that are going to be transporting it through town, we're going to be looking for some safety equipment as far as dealing with that.
Okay, you think that's something you can get to us prior to our licensing hearing?
Yep,
Absolutely, we're working on that.
Okay,
it's in progress.
great. Thank you.
Also, we'll be looking to explore whether there might be some state or federal grants that our legislators and congresspeople might be able to help us get, since Littleton would be like the location in New England for, as a depot for this hydrogen
Yeah,
fuel
it'll be the main
source.
distribution between here and DC.
Can you give us a little update, well, I suppose we can do this during the hearing, but just a quick hydrogen type of gas. Folks are gonna be listening to this and saying, what?
So right now, I mean, overall, it's a pretty safe facility. It's a total exterior, the main distribution plant for Air Liquide or air gas, I guess they just were bought out. It's outside, it's in the rear of the building, be an 18,000 gallon tank. It will be, it takes about 6 hours to fill trucks. There will be about 5 trucks a day that'll be going out at staged intervals. They'll be distributing hydrogen from everywhere from New York City all the way down to DC from Littleton. That they will also be beginning to distribute to some of the fuel stations. They're going to be opening 5 small fuel stations on the
For
95
vehicles.
corridor, right, in Massachusetts, yep. And then there will also be 5 dealerships that will be opening, or that will be certified to service hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. And those will be Toyota, and Honda will be up to, follow suit shortly. And then the gas itself, the way it's set up, everything, it's lighter than air, so if there were a leak, it would typically go right up. The issue with it is if it does ignite, the flame is basically invisible, except for the item that it's actually burning, you'd see that. But if it were the liquid to start burning, the liquid can disperse and it's an invisible flame. So it could be up to 20 or 30 feet away when a tank decides to discharge, and you could be standing in it and you wouldn't have any idea other than you would ignite. So that's where some of the thermal imaging technology is going to come in handy, with some additional training as far as how to deal with the hydrogen fires.
All right, I guess again, my last question, because I'm sure we're gonna have all these questions again, but just for folks to hear it twice instead of just once. Containment, are there federal regulated containment, containers, barriers, or anything like that that we should know about?
So it's, like I said, it's a lighter than air thing, so it's going to, it'll,
I'm talking about the fire
evaporate
piece,
and
that
go away
liquid
quickly.
piece.
When it's in a tank, these cylinders, FIBA is actually, I believe, going to start manufacturing some of these cylinders for some of the automakers. But it's a, once, if it was involved in a fire, the vent would discharge and the tank would empty in 90 seconds. So there's a distinct noise when that vents, and you would stand clear and let it do its thing. It would be a controlled vent. The tanks have been shown not to explode or anything like that, but they will vent off. And depending on the vehicle, there's 4 different makes, and they actually all have them all pointing in different directions. So that's kind of known as far as the manufacturer, and there's certain areas you need to avoid depending on the make of the vehicle.
Okay.
And we know that if it, depending on what we count upon.
All right, thank you. More to follow, folks.
Excellent questions.
Okay. Other items in here, I've included the presentation that Mass DOT made last Thursday night on the proposed traffic intersection improvements to Air Road at Willow Road and Bruce Street, and those plans are available online. They are planning to have the project be underway this summer, so we're still on schedule. Also, a couple of other items you received tonight, a invitation to the annual Council on Aging and Friends Volunteer Appreciation Luncheon, which will be on Wednesday, June 15th at noon. And also wanted to mention a matter which I alerted the board about for tomorrow night's, for action or discussion at tomorrow night's Finance Committee meeting, and that is for the Joyce Williams property, the 60-acre property for which we've been offered 40 acres. That the plan was is to submit a grant application for $400,000 in the annual land grant funding round. This year, the application deadline is July 13th. We had decided back in March we did not need to bring it to the May town meeting. We could apply for the grant in July and then bring it to the November town meeting. So we're basically still on track to do that. One of the substantive questions that has come up, though, is how many acres does the property in fact have? The deeds that we've been able to research indicate 60 acres. Some software that our assessors use indicate 45 acres. The difference is not insignificant, so we would like to know. So step one is to do a survey of the property. The survey cost round up about $16,000. There's also 2 appraisals that need to be done for the land grant application, another $8,000. As of today, the update is that the Conservation Trust can cover $16,000 worth of those expenses, $6,000 from their own money and $10,000 from the seller, who is offering them $10,000 up front now, which would leave the cost of $8,000 left to be covered for the 2 appraisals. So, and that's the work that we need to do to get the grant in. So, since we don't have an $8,000 appropriation, we're at this point want to ask the Finance Committee for that in a reserve fund transfer. The deal with the seller is, though, that she will reimburse the town for those costs if we buy the property. So it's all good. There's just an awful lot to do, and we wanted to make sure we didn't get derailed by not being able to do all the things necessary for the grant application. So survey first, that's covered. The funding for that is covered. Appraisals we can have going on concurrently, but we need to do those. So at this point, I think I had alerted you on Friday that we were looking for $15,000, and as of today, it's $8,000. So, which is the request that I'd want to bring to FinCom tomorrow night, but I wanted to let you all know that we're heading in that direction. And that's it.
Do we need to vote that we're making that request?
Well, I have standing to submit the request. It's not on your agenda, so I don't think you can. It's on the FinCom's agenda tomorrow night
Joint meeting.
to vote to
Sure.
to vote to do it. We can do it tomorrow night. It's on the agenda for tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, very good. All right, moving right along, committee updates. PMBC and the fire station facility expansion update.
I know the PMBC's in the building. They were all on room 307, so
It is their intention to come down, Scott. I don't know if you want to wait till they come down here. It's up to you. I know they are intending to come down.
Okay.
They run up and grab them quick, or?
No,
You have to run.
no. We got other stuff we can do.
Yeah, we can do.
So many other
We
things.
can move on.
I'll be right back.
PJ appreciates it.
Yeah. You ready to go? Master Plan Update Steering Committee, one of my favorite committees.
Now, please, so to speak. Well, Madam Chair, it's certainly a pleasure to appear before this august crowd this evening, so quite a group that you are.
There it goes.
But on a very serious note, if I just may take a moment for us to remember, today's 6th June, D-Day, 72 years ago, brave men and certainly many women were involved too in beginning the liberation of Europe and the ensuing 14 months when World War II finally ended with the war in Japan surrendering. So it's certainly an important date for us to always remember and never take for granted, is what so many great people did, Americans and our allies. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay, this evening, I would like to update you on the master plan. And with me this evening, you already noted that Mr. Peter Scott is here, Chairman of the Planning Board, but he's also a representative to the steering group. And Mr. Mike Zeldin is also in the crowd here, as is one of your selectmen, Paul Levy, and certainly you, Madam Chair, Melissa Hebert is one. So, anyway, so what it is. I'd like to give you, the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board, an update as to where we are with the master plan. Now, a little bit of a quiz. Anybody know where that is? There's more quizzes to follow too, by the way. You can't, because you already know the answer, Melissa. Anybody else? Yes, well done. And it's looking from 119 into Littleton, and that's why I chose that. And this just is a lovely stone that was placed by the 300th Committee, and frankly, personally, it's welcoming. It really is a beautiful little site when driving in from Acton into our town, and that's why I included it. Okay, background. We know our population is roughly 9,000 people. We know about the size and where we are on the planet. But the thing at the bottom there, the third bullet, the current master plan is 2002, and that's certainly ripe for update. But why an update? Well, first off, the law requires us to do that. That's one good reason. Certainly, it's one of your goals from 2015 also. And as I say, the current plan is indeed ripe for updating, modifying, and/or changing, and it's some modification and combination of all that. But here's the real reason. Because if we don't have a plan, we're just wandering about aimlessly throughout the wilderness. We may not consider ourselves a wilderness town, but we're not too far from the wilderness. But with the plan, and certainly an actionable plan, we can control our future. And that's the real important reason for this. Okay, major areas to address. It's a bit of a litany, but in some ways, rather than having cataloged it this way, it almost would have been better for me to put it in a cloud. Because if you really think about it, a lot of these silos, if you will, come together in many different ways. If we looked at conservation, certainly environment's part of that, sustainability is part of that, natural cultural resources, part of that, land use is part of that. So each of these come together in some way, shape, or form. And if maybe one or two don't directly link, they link through others. So there's certainly many possibilities that as we go through this and we address each of them, it's going to be a combined effort and not addressed in merely silos, but as an overall system of systems, if you will. Ultimately, I think it's important to drive home the master plan is not your plan. It's not the planning board's plan. It's not the update committee's plan. It's our town. It's our plan, Littleton's plan. But the bumper sticker I have at the bottom there, for it to be that, we all have to participate. And that's what I'm appealing to. Part of this is obviously giving you all an update this evening, but it's also a public appeal to the public in that we're seeking more and more input from folks in town. Priorities. Okay, we know we're a small town along 495, and we have to have it in that context. So where are we on the map? We're looking at to where we want to be also 10 years from now, and how do we get there? What's that journey, if you will? Because it's not just the destination, it's also the journey on the way. So it's a process, if you will. You know, we don't want something that's staid, old-fashioned. We want to get some new concepts. We want to get some fresh thinking. And again, okay, if you look at me, there's a bit of gray hair on the cranium here. Okay, so when we start talking about new concepts, we need youngsters. We need young folks in town to come forward. That's going to help greatly. Funding details, a plan without a funding source is a useless plan to us. So that reality has to remain in the process also. The metrics, how are we going to measure? How do we know we're heading in the direction we wish to be headed? You know, if we want to take a 090 heading at 330 knots, well, we need to know that we have that. And what devices do we have to measure that? So how do we know we're getting to where we want to be? It's got to be achievable, as I said already. It has to have enough detail so that we can implement specific steps so that we can get to where we want to be. But there has to be differing alternatives in there also, because as we publish the plan from May 2017, June 1st, 2017, something will have changed. And we have to be flexible enough that we can adapt to that. You've heard me say before, no plan survives first contact with the enemy, okay? It's not that we're dealing with the enemy, but it's going to be dealing with the environment that's out there, the real world. So we're going to have to work on that. Capital improvements. Now, we've got a very good plan in town on how we're going about with capital improvements. Nevertheless, this is an opportunity for us to piggyback on that also. That capital improvement plan will be part of this process, but we'll be looking at other things that we may have missed in that capital plan. And then we have number 8, capture the values of the town. A little analogy, if you will, not quite an analogy, but an anecdote. When we were doing the interviews and had some of the professionals in, visiting with us, looking at our consultant, one of them brought up this little story that as they were going through the process, a town that was roughly 25-75 commercial to residential tax base, if you will, they want to get closer to 50-50, so the residents can be paying lower taxes and have the commercial properties pay the taxes. So they started down that road, and then they realized, for us to get there, that destroys our town. And it's no longer the town we want it to be. So they had to modify that goal, if you will. So the values of the town become very important as to we look at this, and we come forward and then finally have that plan laid out for you all. Okay, and then how are we going to enhance it? How are we going to perform it? The financial and economic tools that are available to us. And then finally, the execution aids, which are going to be very important to us. Okay, now, the reason I have this up there, 2002 Master Plan and today, the similarities are striking. And you may have already thought of that intuitively, if you really think about it. Certainly, it's 14 years ago. But nevertheless, in the ensuing 14 years, certainly many things have changed, but at that, many of them are the same. We're at the same place on the planet we were 14 years ago. That hasn't changed. Great Road passes through here 200 years ago. It passes through here today. A lot more traffic today than 200 years ago, perhaps. But still, we're at that crossroads, so to speak, and definitely 495 is new. But not new to 2002. It had already been there for quite a while at that point. Now, the regional access and the easy access of the freeways seems to make it, in many of our minds, it's a very attractive place to be because it's easy on, easy off, easy to commute to, easy to commute from, and to locate a business. But that locating a business is not quite where we want it to be. And hopefully when we go through the plan and the process and work with other folks in town, that attractiveness to place more businesses in town, again, going back to that anecdote earlier, to be careful as to what do we want our town to look like. Okay, so a lot of open fields, woods, and that remains today. Still is certainly quite a bit of undeveloped land in town, and certainly there's a demand, though, that's placing more and more on houses. And a lot of those open fields are now changing around a little bit. And when I get to challenges, you're going to see a little bit more here. But certainly we like to think of ourselves as a rural community, and in many aspects we indeed are. But I put that picture up there, and that's from the 300th opening ceremonies. And those are folks who were at the 250th. The thing is, as we look around the room, at least some of you all may be, and some of us would like to be, come the 350th, we'd like to be here also. So those folks thought it was important enough to do something 50 years ago. We've done something now, and we wanted so that 50 years from now, people can look back and say, hey, the people who were here back in 2017 thought enough of our town to do something about it. So, hey, the challenges. What I would like to bring up, certainly transportation is a challenge. I want to give Keith great kudos, though, because as you see, there's 2 lines there. And you remember, it wasn't too long ago, there was only 1 rail line going through our station, and that station didn't look anything like that at the time. I still want to get you your engineer hat because you deserve a job with the MBTA.
Oh, thanks.
He's got the right stripes on.
Surprised by vacancies?
That's right, yeah.
Vacancies. We talked about attractive place to business, but why do we have so many vacancies as we do? That's certainly a challenge that has to be addressed. Okay, this one's a fresh wound, so to speak. Pasture lands, wooded areas, that's 15 Great Road. And then certainly there's something much more topical here recently, and that's the Cooper property. Development's happening. How do we handle that challenge? Okay, on the right-hand side, the common area, a little over 50 years ago. There's looking down 119, not quite at rush hour, but you can see by the shadows it's getting pretty close. As far as you can see, cars traveling west on 119. The infrastructure. We talked a little bit earlier today as far as some of the things that are going on. The fire station update, we'll be receiving that here shortly. The infrastructure. Those remain challenges. How do we maintain the buildings we have? How do we build the new building that we want to have or renovate the current buildings if necessary? Standing before you, you can see I'm maturing. Okay? And all the demographic projections show that actually our town is maturing, along with the entire state and our nation as a whole in many ways, certainly in the industrialized Northeast. So how do we handle that? Those are challenges that we have to face also. The process, okay, so now we start to get some of the meat as to what you're interested in. The reassess and validate the 2002 master plan, because there's some things in there, we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So we've done quite a bit of work with it. We're gathering input, and I'm going to go through a bit more on how we're going about that. Challenge the underlying assumptions. In other words, We all had assumptions. In fact, the way we began, our very first meeting was to go around the entire group of the Master Plan Update Steering Committee and say, what do you think Littleton is and what would you like it to be? And there was 11 of us that evening, and there were 12 different thoughts, okay? So in other words, each of us has a slightly different thought on how this comes together, but how do we now work to get to a consensus of what those assumptions are and what we want it to be? And that's by asking people and getting them involved. And then finally develop the new plan. It's pragmatic. We certainly want some innovative and creativity involved with it. It's got to have specific implementation steps for us. And as I've outlined, underlined, and italicized, executable, actionable. And it meets the fiscal realities of our town. This is just a partial listing of reports and sub-reports that exist today and are available to our consultant and certainly for us for our use. The latest one on the bottom there, Economic Development Self-Assessment, just recently done by the Dukakis Center. Okay, a little bit about our consultant. We did go out and we briefed you on that previously. I voted on that, the planning board approved it, and it's RKG Associates. And this is the team, and there's other folks involved besides just the 5 faces you see up there. I'd like to give you this assurance, is that we are extremely proud and happy to be working with RKG Associates. They've been responsive, they've delivered on time, they've come to meetings. In fact, Mr. Eric Halverson would have been here this evening. He had agreed to that. Unfortunately, his wife took very ill, and at about 5:30 this evening we spoke, and certainly, take care of your wife and child. We'll work for this some way. Hopefully I'm doing that for you. But Eric certainly has been helping us greatly, as Daphne and Judy. Peter and Patricia, you see there, right now for the most part in the background at this point, but the 3 faces, Judy, Daphne, and Eric, have been the main faces to us up to this point. And as I say, can't say enough at this point as to how well they're delivering. The approach, okay, town-wide forums, I'm going to talk a bit about more on that particular issue a little later. District level planning charrettes, neighborhood focus groups, so you can see from large town, a little bit smaller, and then even smaller. So we're looking to try and hit the large groups, the medium groups, the small groups. Certainly a web and social media presence we're trying to get out there. Facebook, we're trying to leverage that as much as possible. And then that next one, meet people where they're at, if you will. So in other words, let's not just hold a meeting here in room 103, but let's go out to where the folks are. And so engage at different times in different locations and using various different outreach techniques. Some of them I mentioned up at the top there, and you'll see, I'll talk about a few more here. Transparency and inclusivity in the process. Folks have to really believe that what their input is, it's being seen, it's being acted upon, and as we work together as a town and everybody bringing it together, that it becomes included in the master plan and the final product itself. And then what is it that's attractive about us? And now how do we market that and market it in a way that serves our purposes and our goals? We need to know certainly how healthy we are as a town. We've got a pretty good idea, and we know we're a really healthy town when it comes to fiscal issues, so we're very healthy as a matter of fact. Still, we're not spendthrifts, so we're going to be very careful how we do that. And then plan for that future growth. There's always going to be better opportunities for us to do better planning on how we grow our town and who we engage with, how we engage with them. But certainly this master plan becomes that blueprint on how we do that. And then what do we want to do in the future in the town and how we be able to pay for it. Obviously that's a recurring theme. Now understand how residents and workers get around. If you think of each house, each building if you will, as a neuron in the brain and the neural network that connects it all. Okay, maybe an overstatement of an analogy, but really when you start getting down to it, who goes where, when do they go where, and how do they go where? All that is important in how we analyze how we want to improve things in town. And then ask the users what they want. What are their needs, wants, and desires? And then certainly try to project a little bit into the future also as to what that would be. That is a recommendation for improving mobility, and then certainly identifying the demographic changes that are bound to happen here in town. The housing needs survey that was recently accomplished last year certainly is a very good source document, but there's many other areas too, so that we can get a better handle on what those demographic changes may be. Okay. Housing. We showed a couple of pictures there where housing is an issue. It's an issue because we like to see the town retain a lot of its open space, not grow so much, and certainly not grow at a rate that is unsustainable for us, or a rate that we have no control over. So where may be these places that we can help steer? And it's going to be help steer because you mentioned the sale of a property this evening, but to the town where it's being offered to town for its first purchase. But other pieces of property, that's not going to be the case. It's going to be a complete commercial sale. And how do we work with the seller? How do we work with the potential buyers? Those are things to be thinking about. what are the opportunities out there, and then certainly what are the constraints to deal with. As development preservation, it starts to be a bit of redundancy in a way, but the possible scenarios that may be out there that the plan can address, and provides us off-ramps also as that reality changes each day after the plan is signed off on, if you will. Now, that last line there is not the least for sure. Public process. And without that public process, we're going no place. So, outreach. How are we doing that? Well, the committee, we've assigned ourselves to various boards and committees throughout the town, various civic and community groups also. We've had quite a bit of representation from many of the boards come to our meetings, also and participate with us, give us their thoughts and ideas. We've gone to other towns to learn from their experiences. Now, Boxford, Concord, Groton, and Westford, you say, well, that was easy because they're just around us here. Certainly proximity was a piece of that, but also where they were in their planning process. And each of those four were in a different stage of their planning process. And that was very important to us. So Boxford being the most recent, in fact, they were still in the process of concluding the development of their master plan when they were in here. So that was helpful to get what they learned and what their experiences were. And it was the Concord folks who told us, or Groton, correct me if I'm wrong here, where they're at the master, they're briefing it all. They've got it all tied together, and someone came in and tossed a hand grenade. Had you considered this? And for about 5 to 10 minutes at that meeting, it was like that pause. People rallied, and finally they were able to work their way around it, so to speak. But the thing is, if we work as hard as we can to have it as inclusive as possible throughout the process, hopefully we don't get that hand grenade come May 2017. We've met with the MAPC, who I'd like to acknowledge, certainly our town administrator, Keith Bergman, recently elected president of MAPC. So well done. And I'd like to recount a quote of his that was in the newspaper. When asked after being elected the president, he was asked, it might have been you who asked him.
No, it was Lowell son.
Oh, Lowell son. Sorry about that. And the question was, how do you have the time? And Keith's response was excellent. How do I not have the time? Because it's working together that we're going to solve these problems, not working individually. So, very good answer, buddy. Okay, we had the Dukakis Center for Urban and Regional Planning from Northeastern University out here to help us out. And they're the ones they said also did the EDSAT for us, Economic Development Self-Assessment. Those public forums, charrettes, and small meetings I mentioned, and certainly one-on-one interviews, and many of you participated in them, and other folks in the room participated in those one-on-one interviews. Okay, bottom line first. These are your tax dollars, folks. It's coming out of the pockets of Littleton residents. That is not lost on us. The town graciously appropriated $213,000 for us to use. They've trusted us through the planning board to spend that money over time. Now you see some of those numbers around. Public forum number 1, 2, and 3, $3,000 even. The charrette, $6,000. Okay, those are estimates at this point. That's why they're at that point, but that's about where we think we are. It's my personal goal, okay, and certainly it's a goal that I'm trying to foster upon the entire committee, is that we get a consensus-driven, fully vetted plan, and you get change back from your dollar. Okay? So where it shows that almost $19,000, I'm not promising it's going to be $19,000 when it's all said and done, but we're going to work darn hard that we never have to go back to a town meeting and say, give us more money, please, so we can execute this plan. Schedule. Okay, we solicited the contract, we awarded the contract, we've had the kickoff. Okay, the public forum, number 1, town-wide visioning. That is next week. That is a week from Monday, a week from today. Okay, it is the 13th of June, a Monday, at the Littleton Middle School. That's on Russell Street. Everybody remembers where it is. 6 p.m. Now here's the big part. Free dinner, folks. Come and eat a free dinner. Well, your taxes are paying for it, so it's sort of free.
No free-ish.
There's no free lunch, there's no free dinner. Your taxes pay for it. But in all sincerity, it is funded out of the Master Plan Steering Committee's budget, and it's to attract folks. We want people to come. We also have childcare available. We'll talk more about that in a sec here. The charrettes, as you can see, scattered through August and September. Core assessment meetings. Recently we had Cultural and Historical Commission get together and talking. There's going to be 7 more of those. So that way we can have those core competencies, if you will, bringing their points together with the consultants so they have a better understanding as to what we're trying to achieve in the town through this various ones. And then other town-wide working shops 2 and 3 you see in November and then later on March of next year. And all culminating finally where we get to a planning board and we have public hearing or hearings as the planning board decides for them to eventually vote upon this. Town meeting, we present it and then execute it. And we'll see how we go. Okie doke. Here's the advertisement for Monday next week, please. So the question is, what makes Littleton unique? How would you like to improve Littleton? What does your future Littleton look like? Those aren't questions I'm asking to you all. as selectmen. I'm asking you as residents of the town and the other 9,000 or so folks in town. Come on down to the Littleton Middle School, 6 p.m. for dinner. We'll begin the conversations around tables, friendly conversation. Like, Melissa, why are you here tonight? And you could tell us why you're here that night. And that's what I'd like to see with people just all around the tables, having those sorts of conversations. And then we get into the more structured activities. So, Mr. DeCoste, when and where?
Killing me.
Can't help it, man.
Middle school, 6 o'clock, the 13th June.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
How'd you know that?
Because he hits me with a Facebook post about every 15 minutes.
Speaking of Facebook, thank you very much. The public forum is on there. We'd ask that you go there and just say you're going, so that we know you are. If not, skip down to the very bottom and send Maren Toohill a note, email, and it's m2hill@littletonma.org. If you want to see what we're doing as the Master Plan Update Steering Committee, you can go to our Facebook page. And certainly there's more information on the Town of Littleton webpage itself. Okay, challenges and opportunities on this slide here. Look in the far distance. The road bends. There's a curve in the road. And what's around that curve, we really don't know. But if we go hand in hand together, as folks in our community, down that road, we're going to get to where we want to be, and we're going to enjoy the view as we're going along. So that's what I'm asking folks to consider as we do this. Okay, now, I have 2 questions. Again, you can't answer. Where is this?
Long way.
Very well. Is it a sunrise or a sunset?
Sunset. You go there, good?
In the physical world, it is. In our world, it can be a sunrise or a sunset for you. It's your choice. If you want it to be a sunset, the day's over. If you want it to be a sunrise, our day is just beginning. I'm open to questions.
Well done.
Nice
Oh,
job.
yeah, very good.
What's for dinner? Mr. Avila?
No, we're really lucky to have you as a chair, Paul. You're obviously extremely passionate, organized. You put together a great comprehensive overview, structured as well as, unstructured, so it's wonderful. And I'd agree, RKG has been really great. Have all good things to say about them. So, board members, questions, comments?
I fully expected any conversation about the master plan process to necessitate me to add something to it, but you've done such a wonderful job presenting the work we've done and are doing that I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Wow.
We got that on tape?
Write that down.
Scarlet fever.
Well done.
You were talking about maturing, and I couldn't help myself. It's an immature thing, but the first slide, it said town's character. Are we just going to pick one? 'Cause there's plenty of characters. Sorry.
Well, you being one, yes.
Yeah, I want to be in the running. What do you envision the charrettes being? We've got a budget for $6,000 for the charrettes, but
And that's part of the budget on the charrettes too, is again, to entice people to participate.
Yeah.
But certainly, as you know, they're planning exercises where it's really rubber meeting the road. It's not like anything else that's touchy-feely, so please don't misunderstand me. But it's a more structured approach, if you will, where there's going to be the objectives and the goals and the measurable criteria will be much more definable, I guess, maybe much more objective than perhaps the visioning. The visioning is more brainstorming, if you will. So what I'm talking about next Monday, showing my view of what we'd like to see come out of it, and you all can help me expand upon that, is that we brainstorm for a little while. Let's just throw out ideas and just keep them. Some will stick, some won't, who cares? Offer no criticism that evening, if you will. Think them through first. And then as we start going into the charrettes, as I said, it'll be much more detailed, and there will be criticism involved at that point. This idea works because this is a grand idea, but it's going to cost us $100 million. An absurd number.
Sure.
But obviously not sustainable, not approachable at all. So that's what we're saying. And as I said, those are rough budget numbers, just putting the money aside, if you will. I expect it would come in at less than that, to be honest with you. Does that help?
yeah, it does. Thank you. The one other comment that I like is meeting people where they are, and I think that we can kind of carry the torch as well. I mean, certainly the Master Plan Update Committee is getting the word out, social media, doing whatever we can, having the event next Monday at 6 p.m. at Littleton Middle School on Russell Street. That's the 13th of June. But as far as meeting people where they are, we can carry the message, and we can kind of duplicate what you guys are doing and carry the message further and try to get more and more people out there. I mean, I've been trying to share the postings that you've been sending to me. And I think that, reaching out to, I've got some relationships with baseball board and, the Littleton youth sports, and to reach out to those folks, because some people may or may not know what's going on, and just to make sure that by each of us using our own networks and getting it out there, we're reaching them where they are, in front of their laptop or on their phone, checking Facebook, or just on the sidelines at one of the events. So
Yes.
I would challenge each of us and everybody at home to carry the message and come out Monday night. I just wrote down to myself that I want to bring a couple of my older children, because they may have ideas from that perspective that my wife and I may not have.
No, that's excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job, PJ. One question I have, implementation process. Once the plan is over, have you had any discussion or,
On the periphery at this point.
Okay.
As far as how to implement it.
Sure.
But importantly, it's going to be integral to the whole process. So we're not going to come to March next year, okay, let's discuss how to implement this now. That's part of the ongoing process. So as we have these visioning, if you will, now I don't know how much implementation is going to come up visioning next week,
Yeah.
but certainly we start getting to those charrettes, things like that, in the future public forums and the like, how we go about implementing will be a big piece of it. So we don't want to say it's detached and it's something to consider at the very end. And I'm repeating myself, so I apologize, but it's just integral to the entire process.
Sure. Had the other towns that came before you, did they talk about implementation and?
A little bit.
Frustration?
Yeah, I spoke to Westford, and that was one of they were in a few years down the line of being done with their plan, and they hadn't thought of an implementation plan. They said it's a big mistake, make sure you get in front of that.
okay.
And then stuff that they had on the list didn't get done, and then, was it their library or the town hall that had to be closed because it needed
Town hall.
repairs? And so they said get in front of that, and they gave us some good advice there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just a good example, come May 2017, we'll have had a town meeting.
Yep.
And if we had all these great ideas, but for another one in the next fiscal year of 2018, fiscal year 2018, and we hadn't thought about anything at town meeting for 2017, we will have failed. So certainly, we'll be becoming more at your pleasure, more updates, so that as you go through the budget process, you may start seeing, well, let's think about this, so that we can do that now in July of 2017, as we get to that new fiscal year, just as an example.
Sure, sure. I mean, that's what I'm looking for, is, as you build this, to have that, you had mentioned about the infrastructure, the way we're handling infrastructure, capital projects, the way we vet out our capital projects and infrastructure needs. This definitely has to be a part of it starting next year, I would say, to say, based on the past 8, 10, 12 months, this is what we're visioning a need for, so.
And then the brilliance of your structuring of the update committee, including various, people from FinCom, PMBC, some of the other commissions and boards here in town, helps so that we now have those tentacles, if you will, so we get an input from each of those boards to how they're seeing their future, and then it helps us here as we start looking at implementation also.
Great, thank you.
You, the chairman, was brilliant at the time.
Mr. Knox.
Well, I like the slide we talked about, saying that this isn't just for a board or a committee or for your board, it's for the townspeople. And to do that sometimes seems impossible. And a lot of times committees will sit back and just send out a little tiny survey to see what they can get. I appreciate all the different ideas you have here to get people involved, so you have an expanded idea that you just mentioned, even with those different committee members. It takes me back to when Mr. Glavy appointed me to the Town Government Study Committee. He put the board at that time put 8 different people from different areas, so we all had different ideas about, and could accomplish a lot more and get feedback from all different areas. The idea, you're talking to different towns, we did that type of thing. So all that research only pays off, and it is more well-rounded, and you get a true master plan that way.
And on the committee itself, we have a couple of, Littleton babies, born and raised here in Littleton. and they're in their later years. And to Renato Nagapomo, who's been in town just a little over a year. And then everything in between. Sorry about that. So,
You can pronounce his name. That's fine.
He got a run.
You murdered that one too?
English is my second language.
Rhode Island is your first language.
Any other comments, questions, folks? Thank you, PJ. Excellent job. Fantastic. We'll see you Monday, along with everyone in this room.
Free dinner.
Free dinner, that's right.
Middle school, 6 o'clock,
13 June.
13 June.
What's for dinner?
55 bucks.
Fantastic.
Didn't get that answer yet.
He doesn't
What's for
know.
dinner?
Oh, spaghetti is
Are you making dinner, PJ?
No, it's a surprise.
It's a surprise. Chicken surprise.
Very prime rib.
Jello?
Lobster tails. Lobster tails. Yeah. Stomachs.
All right, so shall we go
Skip the
backwards?
charrettes.
And go back to 2A. PMBC, Fire Station Facility Expansion Update, which I understand will be a brief update for today. Come on down. All right.
So, right now, in the last few weeks, we've met a few times with the architect, with Corel, the Corel Group, as well as the OPM from Vertex, and we have made a few modifications with the design, just to operational things, nothing major. We tried to explore a couple different options with the roof line. We decided we're staying with the flat roof. It was just, made the building too unsightly. And he's going through, this Wednesday, we should have a better version with some design, a little more detail. Something that would be in a little more detail, a little more done out, that everybody will be able to really look at and start to say, okay, now it's starting to come together. We're looking at the timeline. I believe that might be in your packets. So everything should be set to go out to bid in, I believe it's in October. It'll be back.
On my birthday.
It'll be, we're looking at the time period of it coming back right now. If he can bump it up a little bit, he's going to try to reduce that. Sure. But it's a very tight time frame
Real
to
tight.
get everything out in, all the design done, get it out to bid, get the, subcontractors back, everything. So it'll be a very tight time frame for the last week of October-ish to get back in time to get the packet out to the residents for town meeting. So, but that's the goal. If that gets a little bit closer, he's gonna try to nail it down a little bit more, but right now, he said it's just, it's too tight to pick an exact date or try to shorten it up. But if it runs smoothly, then that can be done. But the next update will be at the police station on the 14th, next week, Tuesday, at 7 o'clock. And to the abutters, open residents, all of you folks, anybody that would like to be there, there will be some new, like I said, new versions to look at, floor plan design. And we should also have the price back for them, the cost estimator for an updated price. The last time we had a number was a year ago, March. So, well, I should have that by next week as well.
Market adjustment, secondly.
Very good. So come on.
I think the only thing I want to add is that right now, we're looking at 3 professional quotes come in. And we feel very comfortable getting 3. And the last one coming in pretty close to when we send out the bids, request for bids. So,
Professional quotes for what, Joe?
pardon?
The professional quotes for
For,
the entire project, or
for the construction.
for the entire project? All right. So, why you say 3? Because there are 3 people that have been interested? I mean, we're opening it up to the whole world.
We get them at different phases of the design.
Okay.
And the last one is the key one.
Oh, I see. 3, okay.
Professional cost estimator,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we're looking
yeah. All right.
at trying to get, get the 3,
Gotcha.
that'll be the most accurate.
That's just not one individual company with just different 3, all right.
Glad you asked that.
I got you. All right.
Okay. All right, and I know that, so the next meeting is, like you said, on the 14th at 7, and that's the meeting with the neighbors, and they've sent in some feedback on kind of what they would like to see. Does the PMBC have any thoughts on that feedback at this point? Or I know you're gonna discuss it with them live, but I'm just curious if you have any comments.
Well, we've made some changes already based on the first meeting we had. We got, the only thing we gotta be careful of, we're trying to stay within a budget.
Sure, it's a balance. Yeah.
We'll do the best we can, and if we can't, we'll tell them that we can't do it. All right, so far, I think we've listened to them, we've made some changes, we made changes at least twice, maybe 3 times now. So, every time you make a change, you gotta worry about pushing the schedule out.
Right,
So we gotta be careful from here on in, because we wanna meet that date for the November
absolutely.
town meeting.
Yep, that makes sense.
That list was presented at the last meeting with the abutters, and we were able to go through that, and it's a lot of, really, the concerns that have been brought up all along, that we've taken into consideration with the design, and including the materials, the detail on the exterior, and things like that. And I think that's really going to start to pull together when the next version comes out, and they can actually start to see
Yeah.
the detail on the design instead of just looking at a rendition.
Yep,
know.
generic
Yep.
representation, yep.
Yep.
That's great, thank you guys for your flexibility, but still keeping us on track and within budget.
And for this, I could say that we really tried to stretch how late could we hold a fall town meeting. And if we hold it the projected date is Wednesday, November 16th. If we hold it much later than that, we're going to have trouble setting the tax rate on time. So that's about the latest date that we could comfortably go. You back up 2 weeks from that, and you have a publication deadline for getting your information out to the voters. So just part of the discussion was that or the issue I raised with PMBC was, I think we got to make sure that we build into the timeline the ability to tell the voters in advance what the dollar amount is, or else we face grave peril as walking into a town meeting.
Listen, I mean, it's, in the perfect world, it's November. If things don't work out, it's May. That's a reality of the situation too, and let's not, because as Keith said, we want to make sure everybody's on board and everybody understands what the project's all about, so. Sorry.
No, actually, I was gonna see if you guys have any questions or comments.
Not right now.
I have a financing question, actually. What is the financing? I know we, for the past 3 years, talking about the high school debt coming off and rolling the fire station. Is that still?
That is still the plan. The way that this debt would be placed is in fiscal 2020, we would formally issue the bond, which would be when the Shaker Lane debt was retired. And then the high school debt comes off right after that, so it allows us to slide it in within the existing budget.
Okay. So impact the taxes?
At this point, none.
Okay.
Just saying.
So the same tax level, we won't see a decrease, will remain the same? Okay.
And we can only do that about once on a
Yeah.
project. Other projects will have to go
Yep.
another route.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Mr. DeCoste?
No, I'm good. I've been I attended one of the meetings that the chief had with the PMBC, and everybody had an opportunity to speak, and definitely open ears and addressing any and all concerns, so hats off.
Terrific that things are on track and in good hands, and so far, so good.
Fantastic. Anything else you guys would like to update us on? All right, great.
All right,
So
thank
we'll check
you.
in, thank
See you
you.
again.
Thanks, Joe.
2 weeks from now.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Chief.
All right, 10 minutes. 6 minutes. till the-
I thought it was 25.
Was it 25?
Oh, no, you're right, 30, sorry.
So 5 minutes.
Public input.
Yes, we have a public hearing in 5 minutes. And then,
For the input.
yeah, because that might not take 6 minutes, right?
Well, you can start at the thing, and then you open and you table the public hearing until you're done.
Shouldn't take that long.
Yeah, let's see how this goes.
I could ramble.
All right, we may need that. Public input. Does anyone have any public input? Yeah, Chief?
Real quick, I hope most of you probably got something from Team Training Associates, I hope. And if you didn't, look in your emails or your junk mail. For Eric Murray, it's the survey for the police strategic planning.
Oh, I did get that.
Okay. It was
Okay, got
a Survey Monkey. And I know it went out last week to all of you.
I saw something about that.
And so if there's, and also a lot of members of the public got it also, so if you can find it in there, I'll send you out a blast tomorrow, just reminding you.
The chief, like with a lot of those Survey Monkeys, I filled it out, but you send it in and you don't get a reply saying,
Confirmation.
a confirmation, so I have no idea, you
Okay,
leave it to.
I'll check with him. And one other thing, just third Wednesday again is our second Veterans Breakfast coming up. Be 8 o'clock in the morning, so, and then I believe third Thursday is also starting here next week also.
What was the date on the breakfast?
The breakfast will be Wednesday.
15th?
Should be Wednesday the 15th.
Breakfast and lunch that day.
Chief, what time is that?
What's that?
What time is that?
7:30 a.m., or actually 8 a.m., sorry. And just one other quick thing, if you didn't see the press release, K-9 Bojack and his handler, Brian Casey, graduated from drug detection school last week with flying colors, so they'll be out also able to do that now. So it's dual certification, which is what we were looking for.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Thank you, Chief.
Now you're in trouble.
Any
So when he
other?
sits down in front of you, get worried.
I love dogs.
Any other public input? All right, member input, Mr. Knox, I'll start down here and make my way this way.
A couple of things. Congratulations to Keith on being elected president of MAPPC. As Chief mentioned, third Thursday starts again this year on next Thursday, which is the 16th. It runs 5 to 8, and hopefully local businesses, there's still some booths open, so if you'd like to come down to the Park and Rec and get that filled out, that's always been a great success in the past, and hopefully we'll keep it going. Last thing I want to do is take the opportunity to congratulate my daughter Kim, who's herself and her team are being inducted into the University of New Hampshire's Sports Hall of Fame for being the first ever national championship ice hockey women's team back in 1997, and I'm very proud of that.
Awesome. Really cool.
Awesome.
Mr. Carr?
What Mr. Knox failed to say, that he is also being inducted into the UNH Hall of Fame as a coach of that exact team, so congratulations to you, Mr. Knox. That's a great accomplishment. I really have nothing else. I was on vacation last week, so
Looking nice and tan?
getting blurred,
Good.
coming back to reality.
Yeah, I bet. Welcome back. Mr. Nichols?
I'd like to start by saying congratulations to all of the Littleton High School graduates who graduated last Friday evening, and Mother Nature cooperated and gave us a great night on Alumni Field last Friday night. I'd also like to thank Mr. Carr, Mr. Bergman, the public safety folks, the chiefs, and anyone else who was involved with the Willow Street, Bruce Street, 2A, just making the progress that we've made as quickly as we've made it, and also Mr. Hillman from the AR Selectmen. I mean, the turnaround on this project is unprecedented, and hats off to all you guys. Thank you very much for that on behalf of the town. Last thing, I've gotten a bunch of calls about the clearing that's gone on down on 119 at the Cloverdale, and I saw Mr. Finley here earlier. Actually, Andrew, maybe you could help me out with this. And to the best of my knowledge, it's in order to retain the pasture, or return that land to the original pasture land that it once was. So if there's anybody that has any insight into if that is in fact what's
You
going
got
on
it.
there.
Yep.
Taking care of invasives and
Taking
trying
care of
to,
invasives, restoring the pasture land.
Andrew
You have it.
Sacco.
okay.
So they're
I was
actually
kinda
doing a
talking out
clear
of my-
cut and then
Yeah.
stump it and everything too?
Yep.
Okay, nice.
That's all I have.
Mr. Davies.
First, I would echo Selectman DeCoste's comments about graduation on Friday. It was a great evening and a very impressive bunch, the class of 2016, including Chuck's son, of course. The last Monday, we didn't have a chance to have our parade, but we did have a great ceremony in this room. Our chair, Melissa Hebert, and State Representative Jim Arcero gave terrific remarks, and the Highway Department had us ready to have a beautiful town for a parade, and John Borowski did his usual great work as Veterans Agent. So it's been a long, long time since we haven't been able to get a parade off the ground, but it was a good ceremony in any event. And the final thing, I would remind the board that this Saturday from 9 to 11 at the transfer station, I believe it is 9 to 1 rather, is the zero waste day.
High school.
At the high school, excuse me, sponsored by the Sustainability Committee. And everyone's encouraged to participate.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we are at 7:31, so we need to open the public hearing, if you would do us the
Yes, sir.
honors.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
All right. The Littleton Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Monday, June 6, 2016, at 7:30 PM in the Littleton Town Offices, Room 103, and Shattuck 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass. 01460, to act on all alcoholic restaurant licenses, change of manager, stockholder, and application under Mass General Law, Chapter 138, subsection 12, submitted by Chu Sing Inc., doing business as Tekka, and Jin Lu Chen as listed manager at the property located at 495 Great Road, AKA 601 Constitution Ave, Littleton, Mass., known as The Point, a mixed-use development comprising of 7 lots and approximately 90.27 acres of land shown on Assessors Map R18, parcels 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, and 1-4, 1-5, 1-6, and 1-7. The applicant is seeking approval for the sale of all alcoholic beverages Monday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. At the premises described as approximately 6,271 square feet of restaurant space in a building known as existing or hereafter constructed at 495 Great Road, AKA 601 Constitution Ave. Littleton comments thereon may be submitted in writing to the Selectman/Town Administrator's Office, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass. 01460, by noon, Friday, June 3rd, 2016, or in person at the hearing. Littleton Board of Selectmen, Melissa Hebert, chairperson.
Very good. Okay, I know we're behind on the agenda, but I feel like this would be relatively straightforward one to just go and get done, right?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Welcome. Hi, guys. Yeah, please, have a seat. All right.
We could start by saying that the board originally approved this license application a year ago, and so it was approved locally, it was approved by ABCC, so you're dealing with changes in manager, change of ownership, change in ownership interest,
Yes,
and then change in the name of the business.
yes.
All right, am I allowed to be nosy and ask why? Just curious, why the change?
What, the name?
Either, both. Why the name change and why the management change?
He purchased the stock from the previous owner, so now he's become the sole owner of it. And to change the name, I think it's easier to say. I guess easier, so I don't know, I keep saying to myself, that's how to pronounce it.
Just rolling off the top of our...
No, actually, it's kind of pretty name, I think, to catch it.
And previous experience?
Yeah, he had 6 years, he owned his own business, and he's owner of Chen Long Chinese restaurant, and he's been working there for like 6 years. He's also owner.
And what town is that located?
New Hampshire.
Oh, okay.
Glasgow?
Okay.
Is it gonna be the same type of restaurant?
He's going to do hibachi,
Hibachi? So it is gonna be the same type of restaurant?
some sushi, I think. It's be good food, you know.
And chiefs, we didn't hear anything, everything checked out okay?
Everything's fine. We checked with the town where the other operation operates, there are no issues up there either. And clean bops and clean records, so we're all set with these.
Fantastic. Board members, questions?
No, the background check being done, everything seems fine with me.
Okay.
And just to be clear, there's prior experience not only in managing a restaurant, but in having a liquor license,
Yes.
in managing that capacity, bartender training and all that sort of thing. You've already,
He did the chip training, not that, yes,
the tips, of course.
yes.
Question I have is, Keith, you might be able to answer this question, I'm not sure, was the previous license until 1 AM?
Yes.
It was?
Yeah.
I don't remember, it may predate, maybe, approval may predate me, but I don't remember approving anything to 1 AM.
Yes,
There were
actually,
two at one point.
there's a couple down there that are 1 AM licenses.
Really?
Which is the
Yeah,
norm for,
yeah, it
which is
was.
our norm.
Yeah, I
Which is
put-
our norm in the
Yeah,
town.
in the bottom half
Yep.
of this cover sheet, I put what your vote was from a year ago, and it was
Got it,
to
yeah,
1
thank
AM.
you.
Yeah.
Scott?
And again, any bartenders tips training and all that, so, it's pretty basic, but we want to make sure that you guys do that. And my last comment would be, coming out of Constitution Ave, take a right, we got some great farm stands. Go buy some local produce, buy some local eggs, whatever you can from our local farms would be greatly appreciated.
Nothing else, look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 138, to approve the application of all alcoholic restaurant license holder Chung Sing, Inc., for premises at 601 Constitution Ave, The Point, for change in manager to, help me out here, Daug Chu and Chin Lu Chen, transfer stock to the new stockholder, and change the business name to Chung Sing, Inc., doing business as Lazkaya to the doing business as Taka.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good.
Congratulations.
Thank
When are you looking to open?
When's opening?
July?
July.
that's
Very good.
Nice.
you.
Nice.
Nice.
Let us know, get something to Mr. Bergman so we can let everybody in town know when the opening date
excellent.
is. Okay?
Good luck.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Good luck.
Excuse me, yes.
Okay, I was last on public, or member update, sorry, so I'm just gonna go quickly through that super quick, and then we'll go to Economic Development Committee. Likewise, just to echo a couple of comments, highway, police, fire, John Borowski, great job going from parade mode to indoor mode. So that went smoothly, so thank you there. And I wrote the high school graduation down on the wrong day on my calendar, so I feel terrible, I missed it. So
Joey was pretty
congratulations. Sorry, Joey, I'm glad you graduated, and I know you did great. And lastly, just a shout out, happy birthday to Brian DeRosa, who is one of my favorite managers of all time. He turned 40, so happy birthday, Brian. Okay, so now we can go back. Economic Development Committee, Mr. Cornelius.
How are you?
Well, how are you, sir?
Good. First thing is just administrative. We want to ask the Board of Selectmen to reduce their members from 9 to 7. We have, Ed Kuykendall has resigned, Joe Prenderville is basically gone as well. And I'd like to welcome Caroline Armstrong, who was sworn in last month by Diane. She would be the 7th member of the board. So 9 to 7 if you're...
Okay, so we can reschedule
You
that.
do that
one.
right now?
Oh, we can do it now?
I'll make a motion to modify the members of the Economic Development Committee from 9 to 7 members.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So moved.
And secondly,
Neil, you might just want to point out that, Jimmy, in addition to yourself, and
Yes.
Ivan is here, and Lisa was here, and
Yeah.
John Bergeron, and myself are the other
and-
members.
Yep, yep. So we've got a good crew.
Yes.
And we welcome Caroline. Yeah. And I hope you have it in your packets, is the letter that I sent
Do.
a while ago. And we just wanted to follow up on some of those, the 4 bullet points, as far as, getting, maybe updating the town website a little bit more, and avenues to pursue that, the first. And then, of course, the SOAR, we have, doing business page in Littleton, that's kind of to go with the first one. And, using existing funds that, I guess are still out there for somewhere around $19,000, Keith, with the sewer feasibility study?
No.
No?
No, that was closed out last fiscal year because the project was done
Oh,
essentially.
okay. Well,
But it is on that particular point was one of the recommendations that was not only on your list, but also came out of the EdSat.
Right.
That essentially
Re-engaging that.
Re-engaging, I was going to say reigniting, but that's not the right word.
Yeah.
The sewer project.
Yeah, because, it's just a key for the common. I mean, everybody knows it's a major problem, and, we can't kick the can down the road. We've got to really look at that. And that's part of the reason that, you have empty stores down there, because businesses don't know what they're getting themselves into. If they're gonna pay for a septic system and then all of a sudden we put sewage in there, they're not gonna be happy. And they don't know the costs involved. So we really gotta look at that again. And then finally, Mr. Glavy is on our board, so as far as D, he could probably be the liaison to, keep the Economic Development Committee up to date of what you guys are discussing, and, keep an open channel of conversation going on.
That's true on that level, but Neil, and this is consistent in our report, and by the way, with the attachment that we got in our selection packet, we do have the slides we presented last year, but just a reminder, there was a much more detailed report that Scott Lewis, who was on our committee then, had submitted along with it. It's, there's a lot more of the Economic Development Committee's report than just those.
Those were the top 4 that we figured.
Well, I'm going beyond your letter, Neil, to the slides that Neil is,
Oh, right.
I put the slide show
Oh, yeah,
here
yeah.
too.
But on that point, I think our need is not so much to have a board member liaison as well as it is, as much as it is to have staff interaction, designated staff interaction. And I think if I might re-lump the things that we put in this letter from January, a couple of them go together. They're website-driven, a special website page for doing business in town. That's a no-brainer. And having the, some input into some other updates in the website process. We all know that there's a bottleneck, at that interaction with the town's website. A lot of people are waking up to the need and the propriety of using the town's website to get information out to people, and we've got Nancy Glenncross, and that's about it to do it. So we're really choking ourselves on that point, but particularly for economic development, it's the use of the internet and use of the town's web pages is key. We can't really do that on our own without a designated staff person to be the person to work with us in that. Two, the sewer, I mean, if there's one topical area, I'll repeat it as often as it needs to be made. It comes up everywhere in every conversation about what the town needs to do to spark controlled economic development. We want it. And then thirdly is the role for the committee going forward. We've done kind of an initial study phase. We've been very careful under both Ivan and Neil as chair to be a study group bringing ideas back here. We haven't gone out and initiated any kind of projects in the community. It's not our charge, and but at this stage of the game, how much, what does the board want to feel comfortable giving to the Economic Development Committee in terms of having conversations with the Littleton Business Association, having conversation with business owners, having prospective businesses who've come to town, because occasionally some will find our way to our door. People, we just kind of have to say it's not our job, but at some point we should have a spelled out role in that process of of addressing specific projects and what the
Like a mission statement or something.
Yeah, mission statement and what the committee's role in that would be.
Now, would you would you want to take that on? I think it's a great idea to go out and talk to businesses. There's no better way to get feedback, because that's something that you,
It's nobody else's specific responsibility to do that proactively. So if not the Economic Development Committee, then who? And, you know, and I'm as conscious as anybody that we're an appointed committee, and, you know, we're here to serve an elected committee in the town, you know, through this board. So that's all well and good. We're not gonna be out signing deals with anybody, but I think we would like to be out, you know, initiating conversations and bringing proposals back to the town.
it would be very interesting to hear what local businesses in different parts of town, or people who didn't come to town, or anyone that you can possibly talk to. I think that even the Littleton Business Association, if you meet with some of those members, because at those meetings that I attend, you hear them talk about different topics that have held them back, or their friend didn't go into the store for this or that reason. I think it'd be a tremendous thing.
I tend to agree, absolutely.
And we have some ideas of how to update the website as well.
So I guess when Madam
please.
Chair, thanks. So what we're hearing, from what I'm hearing anyways, is okay, we said, okay, here's an Economic Development Committee. You took it to where you thought we should take it. All right, Board of Selectmen, what do you want us to do next?
That's exactly where
Okay,
we're at.
so, I think this is a very important agenda item, not only for you guys, the Master Plan Committee, the website, as you said, but let's figure out what that charge is gonna be, and let's figure out what we have to ask, as you said earlier, you know, maybe 4, maybe even 6 or 7 different types of things that we expect that you guys can go out and do, and who you
Yeah,
can engage.
This is a whittled down list. This is-
Sure,
this is a
sure.
whittled list.
Yeah, that's true. I would invite you to chime in too, because you were chair for most of the past year. You know, we tried to limit this list specifically because we wanted, you know, if it would give you more than 3 or 4 things, give us more than 3 or 4 things, you start to forget what the priorities are. I mean, the sewer is not an item that the Economic Development Committee is looking to drive. It's just throwing that back to the board as one more reminder of, you know, please get that back on the agenda at some point. But for our own duties, it's, you know, reconfigure our charge. If you want us to do some work, tell us what our role should be out amongst the business community, creating, enticing, or whatever, or doing research about development possibilities, bringing them back to the town. But in order to do that, we need you know, as do a lot of other departments, better access to and a better functioning, you know, website applicability. And in our specific case, it's some staff contact. We need to who to call. I mean, it's easy to say call Keith. Well, Keith's got a million responsibilities. I mean, if it's Keith and somebody else.
Well, yeah, I mean, right now, the way we're set up, I wouldn't recommend that you call anyone other than Keith.
Well, we're not.
And I would think that of all the things that I do and spend my time on, either in town or working with others, economic development is at the top of that list. So we don't have an organizational structure that can provide you anyone else for that level, and so I
Well,
would
we
say that
haven't,
it needs to be.
we haven't discussed
Yeah,
that. I think that's a
But there.
conclusion we haven't reached.
Yeah, but it certainly, we can, but it would be the reason why in the short term, if we are assigning staff to work with you, it would have to be on a very defined and probably
Right.
limited basis that we should definitely talk through. As far as what the scope would be, I know there was the list of the things that were in the original report, in the full report. And also, as recently as a month ago, we had yet another list of things that many of which were redundant to what was in the report, but things that we need to do, or at least that the Economic Development Self-Assessment Tool indicates we ought to look at, including the expedite review and permitting approvals process, appoint a team to oversee improvements to that. That was one. Craft a more aggressive commercial industrial attraction policy, a comprehensive cross-marketing strategy, develop a strategy for reducing high retail and office rents, and then the other was to look at the sewer system. A related one, which was in the text, was upgrading the website. That's like a clear number 1. And I think within our scope, whether it's me and Nancy or some, and I have to say Maren and Roland or Shelley, the people that are working on that. I think that we could put together a working group to work with the committee as a whole or a subset of it to and with the business association, I mean, whoever the players are these days, and come up with it.
I think a principal point of contact at an administrative level is what we most need. And when I say administrative, I mean like administrative assistant rather than department head.
Yeah.
And the other entity that we've discussed, and Ivan's on the board, is when we don't have an economic development committee in this town, or when we haven't had one, we really have had one. It's been our light and water departments who are our first and professional point of contacts with the world of business. And I don't know if, Ivan, you've had any further conversations with Scott or anyone down
Right,
there.
I mean, we just upgraded our website. We have a company that we use, and we're thinking that there may be an opportunity to utilize that company, because I think that this is not a big project. We just need to kickstart it and get it done. And just another point, we talk about business in Littleton. We need to utilize technology and get the word out, because there are businesses that leave and go to neighboring towns. There are businesses in neighboring towns that are looking to expand, and they're not necessarily married to their town. And it's happened. And if we can get in front of these people, these businesses, attract them to Littleton, we can take them from these neighboring towns potentially. So,
And we've got vacant buildings while new companies come in and build new facilities, and we're doing nothing to figure out, whether we can solve that problem.
exactly.
We really want to fill Foster Street, Taylor Street,
Right.
those places up there.
One second, Mike.
So what I'm hearing is we need a proactive approach, not a reactive approach, for marketing Littleton. So we need to get the word out. And I think some of that actually is a sell sheet as well. I mean, the internet and social media is fantastic,
Yeah.
but we also need feet on the street. And again, I said we can carry the message and meet people where they are. We can carry the message, and if I had some, I carry this thing that Scott put around to market the fire station. If we had something that talked about the light and water rates.
Yeah, the benefits.
And all the benefits of being in
Doing business
Littleton,
in
the
Littleton, right.
interchanges that we have, easy on-off, distribution, there's a lot of opportunities for us to draw people in. And I think that we need to be proactive about it. And, it's awesome to get the feedback to us about, more people would come to the common if there were sewer. And, all of that is great information for us to gather. It's not as easy for us to react to. But Ivan, to your point about businesses looking to grow or looking to come into a community like ours, we need to try to meet them where they are.
Right.
And reach out to them before we find out that they just opened right over the line in Westford or in Groton.
Exactly.
When the whole strike thing was going on with the nurses over at Neshoba Medical, I reached out and talked to the president of Neshoba, Sal, I can't remember his last name, but reached out and said, hey, listen, we're here. A lot of your employees live here, a lot of our residents go to your hospital, let's work on doing something together. And he said that he was looking for maybe a 10,000 square foot space
Right.
to put in some sort of a medical offices or something like that. So trying to keep those lines of communication open, but I think each one of us runs into folks, and plenty of people out there run into folks that could proactively say, hey, think of Littleton, I mean, make it in Massachusetts.
Right, right.
Get it on in Littleton.
Well,
That's
we've got seven sets of legs on the ground willing to do that, kind of work, and not looking to, to be territorial about it. We're looking to work with people. So if you run into somebody, it should be a relationship where you say, hey, I'm gonna call up Neil, chairman of the Economic Development, and see how quick they can get over there with the packet, find out the issues and work with them, that sort of thing.
Right.
Or whatever.
So, you want to go, Mike?
Oh, sorry, Mike, yeah.
No, Michael Zeldin, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to suggest that economic development has two parts to it. One of them is, Mr. Bergman referred to making the regulatory steps as, shall we say, efficient and as fair as possible. Making sure the infrastructure that the town can provide is provided. However, when it comes to marketing and attracting other businesses, I think the last thing that government should be involved in is capitalism and in business. And I would argue that as the biotech and high-tech and other industries around this state have flourished, it's not from the towns. If you look at it very carefully, it's from private, nonprofit organizations such as local business associations getting their funding from the state or the federal government and independently going out on a marketing effort on their own. And I believe that to charge a committee that's a creature of the government to do the marketing is not going to be effective for the very reason that it is government. It is not business.
I
just like to throw that idea
I respectfully disagree, because many other communities in the area have people who are actually they're called town planners, and they're tasked with exactly what you said they shouldn't be tasked with.
If I could jump in specifically, the industries create themselves. Where they go is in a large measure up to communities. Communities can say, aha, here's a burgeoning new industry. Clinton did it with, plastics. And other communities have done that too. They'll take a mill building and say, what infrastructure do you need in it to be a attractant to this industry? And industries who are new starting up, in the technology, biotechnology, they want to be located near each other, and a community can play a big role in making them, comfortable. I mean, it's not by accident that a lot of companies end up near each other, and a lot of times, if you look at it, the communities have made special efforts to attract them. That may be what we end up doing or want to do up on Porter Road and Taylor Street, and say, we've got these buildings, they're old, but what can we do to retrofit them, get some grants, with our grant wizard here, and target an industry that's growing. So thank you for raising the point, Michael, but I do disagree on that. I think there's a role for us.
The evidence doesn't support your assertion that, in the end, it's businesses that attract other businesses. And the towns can, as it were, swim the road somewhere. But if you look at what Acton does and all the rest and go the next step, it is the existing businesses, it's a channel that can exist formally between government and business. It's very difficult for government and private enterprise to work so closely in terms of site selection and all the rest. You can assist, you can encourage, but the main impetus comes from other businesses.
And I think that's
I would just suggest that you might want to think seriously about not having everything resting on a single committee that is in fact an extension of the government. That's the only.
I think it rests on everyone in town.
Yeah, it's a lot of things, but...
It's a lot of things, but Michael, what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying, but we would like to have some control, if you will, of the businesses that we would like to attract to the town, rather than businesses that we don't want in the town. I mean, you can have some control over that.
So, as a for instance, if I may, you mentioned biotech. I reached out to Bob Coughlin, who's the CEO, director of Mass Biotech Council, have multiple conversations with him. They're not looking to come to Littleton because we don't have the infrastructure. It's basically, we don't have sewer.
Right.
So they.
Can't do bio without a sewer.
Exactly.
Okay.
So.
Appreciate that.
Should go to Clevis Moultrie.
So I guess what I'd say is, let's charge this board to come up with a new mission in charge for the Economic Development Committee.
Get back to us in a few weeks or whatever.
Absolutely. Maybe make it part of our goal setting.
Yeah, we're doing goal setting 2 weeks from tonight.
So let's get that on there and, get your brains together and let's all see what we come up with, some type of charge.
Fine. We'll submit some ideas in writing too, if you have any further thoughts. I mean, that memo was dated
Sure.
back in January, so I know I'll submit
When's
something
your
in
next
writing.
meeting?
Maybe I'll do a video.
We don't know what's going on.
Great.
Could you let me know, just because I will make sure that I'm.
We'll schedule it right after your Selectmen goal meeting.
Okay, good.
All right?
Great.
And come next
And-
Monday to
and-
the master.
Right, and a plug for the master plan, that I know that there's been some outreach to the EDC members
Yes.
for that master plan.
Yes.
Core component for economic development,
Right.
that's another opportunity.
Right, we're going to be participating.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'll be there
that's
too.
Okay, so membership reduced from 9 to 7.
Yep.
We're all on the same page.
So you'll have a quorum at your next meeting.
Huddle,
There you go.
come back, goals, we'll rock and roll it.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
Thanks
all.
for everything, guys.
We will make the support available.
Welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are definitely behind. I apologize about that. I think we can do this next one pretty quickly, hopefully, 2D Housing Authority vacancy.
It's a procedural vote because the governor appointed someone who was already sitting on the Housing Authority as his appointee, thereby creating a vacancy in the elected position, so we'd like to fill that by the normal procedure.
Policy, normal procedure. Any discussion on that one?
Just to add, I think, by the governor appointing somebody who's currently sitting on there was knocked off.
That's right, yes, by virtue, once Gino accepted the governor's appointment to the Housing Authority, he ceased to serve as an elected member, and he'd just been reelected for a 5-year term. 2 weeks later, the governor appointed him to a 4-year term, and Gino took the 4 years, so.
And Bartlett Harvey
But it worked.
knocked
And
out.
Bartlett Harvey was knocked off, so so Bartlett will be applying. Gino is encouraging Bartlett to apply, and the remaining members of the Housing Authority can be here at our first meeting in July to make a joint appointment.
Perfect.
It was, at the end of the day, it was easier for us to change what we're doing than to get the governor to change what he was doing, so.
Very good.
Ready? Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 41, subsection 11, to receive the notice thereunder given by remaining members of the Littleton Housing Authority of a vacancy on said board created by elected member Gino Fratelloni, appointed by the governor to the same board, and further give notice that said remaining members that the Board of Selectmen shall convene a joint meeting with the intent to fill said vacancy through the May 2017 annual town election by joint appointment to be made on Monday, July 11, 2016, 7:15 PM, and further to invite qualified registered voters of the town of Littleton to apply for said appointment and be interviewed at said joint meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good. All right. 5, appointments. We have several appointments to make, starting with
Community preservation. Just reappointment. I saw Myth here earlier.
Yeah, he had to leave, but he did stop by and say, wanted to make sure we got his application and,
Ready for a motion?
indeed.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Mitt Wanzer to the term on the, what is this? Community Preservation Committee.
Expiring June 30, 2019.
Expiring June 30, 2019.
Second.
So move it in second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mitt. Easy one. Okay, Conscom, 2 members, 2 applicants. Who's this Andrews Marco guy?
Right?
Andrew and Thomas Mann. I don't know Thomas.
I don't see Tom.
2 reappointments.
2 reappointments. 2
Thank you again, Andrew, for stepping up.
Not a problem.
You do a
How many
great job.
committees you're on now? 5, 6?
You may be at your max.
Can't keep track.
Ready?
Ready?
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Andrew Samarco and Thomas Mann to the Conservation Commission with the term expiring June 30, 2019.
Second.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew.
Moving right along. COA, Council on Aging. Again, 2 members.
We have Mary.
Mary.
Mary and Mary.
Mary and
Mary
Mary.
and Mary. Hello, Mary and Mary.
2
Thank you
reappointments.
again for volunteering. Yep, you want to say
I'll
something?
come up here so you don't have to listen to me yell. You have my application for reappointment to the Board of Directors of Littleton Council on Aging. We're a volunteer 9-member board. We're an advisory board only to the Pam and Tina. We try to provide services and activities for the older adults that have the capabilities physically and education with services. We're the only human resource department, I think, in town. And without a magnitude of volunteers, we would be incapable of providing many of the services to allow many of the older seniors to stay in their homes, be self-sufficient, independent, and take part in the community life. Amen.
Well said.
I'd like to nominate my old neighbor, Mary Catalanato, and Mary Hunt, to the,
Yes, both.
to the two vacancies. I'm not sure that, we don't have a page for the terms on those.
There
The
are-
18th of June.
18th of June, see, I don't have that.
Well, it's a 2-year term, right?
For a 2-year term expiring in June of 2019. I would have got there eventually. 2019.
Second.
So moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Beg your pardon?
Thank you.
Congratulations,
You're
thank you.
reappointed. Both of
Thank you, Mary and Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Other Mary.
Right.
Well,
We've reached,
I was just finishing Mary Kay's position,
yes, yeah.
so now this is my own
This
application.
is your own for a full 3-year term.
Yes.
Oh, okay, so the other one should have just been for Mary Catalanato. Can I make that?
No, it's
They
two.
expire
Yeah,
at the same
she had
time.
she had been appointed, or initially, to fill an
Okay.
unexpired term. Now it's a full.
Now it's a full.
Yeah.
I thought I was doing 3 years, but then I got the notice that I was.
It's 3 years, it'll be 3 years now with the new term.
3 years.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm a repeat offender. I was one back in the 80s.
Oh, my goodness.
You liked it so much you're back again. Want to stay?
Did we let you off for good behavior in the 90s?
She wasn't senior enough.
No?
I decided I'd pursue a career first,
Oh, very good.
and then became a senior citizen and said, okay, it's time to come back.
Thanks for
But as you
your
can see, I've been very busy on the board for 2 years.
Yes.
It's a busy board. I was impressed how the other Mary could recite what the mission of
Yeah.
the Council on Aging was, because it took us a long time to drill that through. So I appreciate all the work that the current council has done on that, on the
Emmett's done a
direction.
wonderful job
Yes.
as director.
Really happy to hear that.
Great to hear.
And the Friends of the Council on Aging, Barbara McCray needs a good hand too.
Absolutely.
We're happy to have friends.
Good
Yes.
thing going.
Very good, well, congratulations. Did we
You already voted,
We're
didn't
good.
Yep.
You're
Oh,
good.
you're in.
Thank you.
Make sure before we
Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, LCTV. Oh, popular one.
Yeah, 4 going for 3.
4 going for 3. William Bills, Barbara McCray, Nancy Hosinger, and newcomer Marianne Grenier. All right, let's see. I see Barbara. I see Nancy. Bill?
Bill isn't traveling,
Oh, okay.
but he certainly is most interested in being reappointed.
Excellent. And Marianne Grenier? Are you here? Marianne?
And you've got another
Grenier?
applicant
Grenier?
who is not, she's not a current member.
She also is interested in 3 different boards.
Yeah, which is great. She just moved to town and she put her hat in the ring for Cultural Council, CLC, and LCTV, so that's fantastic.
Had the LCTV advisory committee voted to recommend the current members be reappointed?
Absolutely.
Okay, right.
We prefer that people who want to serve on the committee come in and volunteer. Everybody that's on the committee,
Yeah.
and has been for years, first started out as volunteers doing camera work, doing editing work. Over half of them are local access producers. So if people are interested, good, come in. We'd love to have you work with us, work your way up to board membership.
Makes sense. Learn the skills and then you can join. And I know personally, I work with LCTV a lot, and Bill, Barbara, Nancy are awesome. They're wonderful. They inspire me and help me a lot. So I have only the best things to say about them, and I'm sure Marianne is great, but from my perspective, we got a winning team there. So I don't know if we want to have you guys speak at all. I know we're very familiar with you.
Right, I very that, what you just said, Alan, is right on spot. Have you had a chance to talk with Mary Ann yet? Do you folks, did I miss that part? No, so none of you folks know who she is?
No.
No, all right, because, happy to appoint her, but I hope she gets that, message that this is a group that doesn't just attend meetings and, vote policies, but gets their hands deep into the cables and the rest of it.
Do you get your hands dirty from handling those?
I was thinking that through. I don't
Like
know.
with this fiber optics, it's just, no.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint William Vales, Barbara McCray, Nancy L. Hilsinger to term on the LCTV Advisory Committee for a term that
Did
expires.
you leave out Mary Ann?
There's
We only have
three
3
openings.
spots,
Oh, all right.
unfortunately.
You have 4 candidates for 3.
Oh, yeah, that's the whole.
Term that expires June 2019.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations and thank you. Thanks for all your hard work.
Why are you telling me to stop talking?
Let's see, does the camera bow for?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
And for Mary Ann, hopefully we can find a spot for you on
Well, maybe she can start
Get some
volunteering.
volunteering.
cultural council's her first preference.
Who was the third choice, anyway?
Yeah.
Ma'am, that's true.
PMC.
PMBC, 1 position, 3 applicants, Richard Crowley, Chris Hinckley, Keith Nixon. We believe.
And
So I
we
see
have
Mr.
Mr.
Crowley, I
Hinckley.
see Mr. Hinckley, Keith Nixon.
He's not here.
No, he's not here. Okay. All right. So 1 position, 3 applicants. All right. Should we have you guys come down here? Come to the front row. Familiar faces. All right. So let's see who we got first here. Rich, your resume is amazing. You've got a lot of documentation here.
Do you have a member of the PMBC in the back?
Ah, Steve. Hi. And did they have a recommendation, PMBC?
We met earlier this evening, and we decided to defer the recommendation with the selection process to the Board of Selectmen, since you are conducting interviews.
Okay. Defer, but obviously won't pick it back up again. Just defer to
I think
us.
demur, actually.
Okay.
Defer the selection.
May I ask Mr. Moore a question?
Sure.
Mr. Moore, is it your understanding that all of the candidates were notified?
I don't have that information.
Okay, all right.
Well, Keith, you know, right?
I was just told by Chuck earlier that
I
Nixon.
did hear a rumor
I called
that one of
everybody
the candidates
left
was not.
messages, so.
Right, so there was hearsay that one of the candidates was not notified, and I've actually gotten, I reached out to one of the candidates for another position.
Yeah.
That, asking if they were coming earlier today, I asked, and they said that they weren't aware that there was an interview process this evening, so.
Really?
Yeah, so I didn't know if when we did the alumni field renovation committee, when people were not given the opportunity to speak on their own behalf, we did postpone the vote. So I don't know if that's something the board wants to entertain, or we do have 2 candidates for 1 position if the board wants to move forward this evening.
Well, that's a good question, okay?
2-week appointment, I mean, 2 weeks before our next meeting, I have no problem holding off if Nixon's still in.
The only harm done is these folks have come out
I know.
tonight. but
Right. Well,
they can do their
Hopefully we
interview. They can do
entertain
their-
you anyway.
They don't have to come back,
Well, that's true too, yeah.
Okay, then let's,
which is what we did for the alumni field.
yeah, consistency is good.
We allowed the folks that were here to do their interview and not have to come back the
Not
next
come
time.
back, and then-
And then we made a decision based on all the interviews.
But they are more than welcome to come back.
Of
Always.
course.
Sure.
Every
Mr.
meeting.
Crowley's on the website. His term ending 2019, is that?
I didn't notice that.
Something.
Oh, really?
Is that an oversight, or is that?
No, Mr. Crowley had resigned. It's his position that we're filling.
So, okay, let's do that then. That's fair. I think good point. Wouldn't have known that. Okay. All right, and then maybe we need to do some follow-up on what happened to fall through the cracks there. All right, so Rich, you're up first in our packet here. So, We're obviously very familiar with you. Let me ask the question, then I'll let you speak and let the board ask you questions. But why? You're so involved in everything. Why coming back to PMBC?
Because I know I can make a difference. I know with what I do on a daily basis and what I do in my life work, it's the same thing that gets carried on in the PMBC, and I know I can make a difference there.
Yep. Okay, great. Anything else you'd like to add before I hand it to the board for questions?
Oh, no, go ahead. Put me on the fire line.
Jeff?
Well, do you mind walking us through kind of the, Mr. Hinckley brought up the fact that you are presently listed as being a member of the PMBC, that the town administrator alluded to your resignation and subsequent reappointment?
Yes.
Or your application for reappointment. If you could just kind of walk us through
Yes.
how we got to where we are.
But there was I'm an OPM, but that's called an owner project manager. I'm certified MCPPO, that's a Massachusetts Certified Purchasing Official. That's what I do for a living, is manage projects, construction projects. I've got hundreds of millions of dollars worth of infrastructure that I've built and managed. And when the fire station came up to when the RFP went out for an OPM for the fire station, I resigned from the PMBC because I thought that I could provide a better service to the town as the OPM for the fire station. OPMs generally are mediators. They're not advocates for either side. And I would have been, should I have been chosen for that position, the advocate for the town and OPM at the same time. So I felt that I could really do the town a step better service by resigning and becoming the OPM for the fire station. Well, that didn't work out. There was some timing matters that because of the state had rules against once you're on one board, you can't resign unless a certain amount of time passes before you go on to the next board. And so I missed that by just a short window of timing. When that passed, I felt that, I realized that, the resignment went through complete, so there's no way I could have rescinded my resignation. So I'm here back in front of you guys to apply for that position again. Should you decide to do it, I'd give it my best.
Thanks, Richard.
Mr. Clayton?
Yeah, I guess, obviously, I know Rich and appreciate his work at Planning Board, his prior service in the Municipal Building Committee, and a lot of good structures around town that's got, both in terms of physical structures and bylaw updates that he's been directly involved with on the Planning Board. They've got his signature all over them. And I served with Rich on the Master Plan Committee, and knowing how much of a time commitment that is, it really comes back to me on time commitment. Your talents are known and appreciated, but both of these are going to be very busy committees in the next year, the Master Plan Committee and the Building Committee, with the fire station project coming online and perhaps other things. So I wonder if you've given thought about how much time you can give to so many committees.
Yeah, when there's conflicts for the night, or the same committee on the same night, I wouldn't be able to attend both. But it's so far that's been able to work out, because the Master Plan Committee meets on Tuesday nights and the Building Committee meets on first and third Wednesday nights. So that part worked out. The time commitment is, the old adage, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. Well, as a project manager, I'm probably one of the busiest people that are sitting in this room. My normal week is anywhere from 60 to 80 hours. I handle multiple projects at the same time, so my ability to multitask and retain what needs to be done and get what needs to be done by the time it needs to be done is impeccable. So I think should you choose to put me back on the board, I'd be able to manage both.
I really don't have any questions. I know Rich, and I know he's well qualified for the position.
Ms. Knox?
Just like Jim said, the only question I had, which would have been the amount of time, I didn't think was covered by Mr. Glavy. I think some of the concerns of people on that committee itself were that there were meetings that you hadn't gone to, so.
Yeah, and those are commitments that I have teaching in the fall. Now, my fall schedule right now has 4 weeks that I won't be able to, 4 weeks, which is 2 meetings that I won't be able to attend. Now, everybody doesn't attend all of the meetings. We have 24, we meet 24 times out of the year. That's quite a heavy schedule for the PMBC. And I know that there's no precedent in terms of there's precedent in terms of people not attending. I mean, when I first got on the board, Walter, what's his name? No, not Walter Barkis, but one of our members took the summer off. And that was like 8 meetings that he wasn't in. Warren.
He goes up to PEI.
Yeah, and we still managed as a lacking one member for those 8 weeks. The board has lots of good members. They're assigned different projects for each. And when it comes time to manage those projects, for instance, the fuel tank, the fuel depot for the town, I put in about 60 to 80 hours on that upfront work on that fuel depot, making sure that the documents, the plans, and the specifications were tailored for our town, not for some other town, is what it really boiled down to. And so when that sort of stuff, we each have a project, and so when those projects come to me, I'll be able to manage them. I just want to point out that for the past 13 or 14 years in the construction industry, in state work, government work, I've got a record of on time, on budget, and no litigation. And that's pretty tough to do in this minefield of public work that's all litigation. So my record speaks for itself.
You do have one of the coolest resumes I've seen. It starts off with, okay, I was managing a $1 million project, and it jumps to 10, jumps to 30, jumps to 50 as you go on. It's pretty impressive. Thanks, Rich. All right, Jason, glad to see you back.
Chris.
Oh, my God. I'm so sorry.
Great family, yeah.
Yes.
Showing your age.
Yeah, I know, right? Not without gray hairs either. Glad to see you back here. FinCom, previous member, coming back again. So I'll ask you the same thing from my perspective. Why?
I just noticed the opening online on the website. I wasn't aware of the situation. I know Mr. Crowley's put in many years of service to the town, so my perspective is this ties into what I do every day. It's kind of a piece of what I do. I'm also MCPPO certified. I'm currently working for North Middlesex. We've got a new $89 million high school currently being developed and coming online next fall of 2017. So handling all the borrowing with that. It's my first experience with the regional school district, so I do everything with the actual debt borrowing and cash flows and everything on that aspect. Applying for all the reimbursements to the state, MSBA. So everything as far as the capital project is concerned financially, one way, shape or form comes through me. Prior to that, Wayland High School, $66 million project, was involved in that start and finish. Same thing with the borrowing, doing all the MSBA payments, everything financial, I pretty much handled that. And then, my 15 years of municipal school finance experience, I've been, I don't know how many univent systems, roofs, technology purchases, just pretty much everything. I'd say it's at least over 250 million, to at least probably 300 million that I've personally been involved with as far as capital projects. So I have just a vast experience with that. Posting the bids, central registry, again, I'm MCPPO certified. So I've been doing all that for over 10 years. And I just have an interest in the numbers. Capital projects are also something I really enjoy getting involved with, and like you said, I saw the opening on the website, and it struck my interest.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Board, Chuck, Mr. Nichols.
I think the experience in the MCPPO, which stands for,
Massachusetts Chief Public Purchasing Officer.
thank you. You guys both rattled it off pretty quickly. I really don't have any questions. I served with Richard on the PMBC, so I know what he can do on the PMBC. Chris, I've never worked with you on a board, so I don't have that knowledge. I guess just the question that was already asked and answered is, the why, so it's really all I can do.
Yeah, however I can help out, obviously a finance, accounting person. Work for cities, Haverhill, Haverhill's about 130 million, currently North Middlesex, we have $50 million operating budget. It's a regional school district, so fully loaded, it's about 66 to 68 million. And then, like I said, I was in Chelmsford for 4 years. I was an heir, so I've Wayland, wealthy town, so I've been kind of all over and just experienced a lot of different capital projects and town needs.
Anything else?
I don't really have any questions, other than I would say, I served with Chris, had the pleasure of serving with him on the finance committee for, I don't know, what it was, 4 years or so, and but what's apparent on Chris's resume was apparent in real time when you dig into numbers and find the truth in there and find the baloney in there too, which is a good talent to have, and I appreciate that. There's some tough balancing we have to do here, personally anyway. I have high regard for both of these folks, both personally and with their skill sets, as I do for our missing candidate tonight, Mr. Nixon too. He brings a pretty unique set of qualifications to the table. So this is Littleton. You have tough choices to make good people.
Okay, very good. Scott?
Worked with Chris too, well, not them work with him, but, as a Board of Selectmen member and the Finance Committee, and as Paul said, he had some tough questions asked. I thought he did a good job. I don't really have any questions for you. I think, based on your resume, and Paul said it too, tough choices.
Lucky. Mr. Knox?
Once again, no real choices. I've known Chris for a while. For a long while, all the way back to high school. I guess none. There's nothing I know that when you were with the Finance Committee, there were a number of different topics that you had brought up that I was thinking along the same lines, so I appreciate them, certainly when you were talking about future contracts and things like that attracted my interest, so. No other questions?
Okay, all right, very good. So we will then postpone the motion so that we can talk to Keith. So Keith, could you make sure that we reach out to Mr. Nixon and then have him back again when we do the rest of the appointments? And then, of course, you're more than welcome to come back as well. And that is, when's our next meeting? 20th.
It's 2 weeks from tonight.
2 weeks
And we'll also be doing Agricultural Commission, Clean Lakes, Cultural Council, Finance Committee, Historical Commission, and Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you both. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good luck too.
What did the mustard say to the hot dog? Catch up. We gotta catch up. All right.
You just didn't think of it first.
No. All right.
I relished that.
Well played.
All right, 5B, Marts. I want to say MRTA.
Matt.
Matt.
It's over here, Matt.
Matt.
Hey, Matt.
So Keith, you are a representative. You would like to be appointed as our representative
Sure,
again?
yeah. They serve pizza at the...
Whoa, I gotta rethink this now.
Can't we make him go sit out there at the interview?
Maybe he should stand.
Oh, the good news is that the Montechusett Regional Transit Authority no longer operates in a deficit.
Hey.
I've been chairman of their finance committee for the last 3 years, and part of it was help from the so-called forward funding bill for all regional transit authorities. They used to be able to run up operating deficits and have it then just borrow the money year after year. Mart did an exceptionally good job at that, running up about $20 million in operating deficits. And when forward funding passed, you weren't allowed to run a deficit anymore. And with the help of the Mass DOT sitting at our table, at all of our finance committee meetings and all of the advisory board meetings, Martin did the right thing and balanced their budget. And we've got a very strong finance team in place now, and we're not running deficits anymore, we're actually running a surplus, so.
You are actively engaged in your, and you attend and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, if it's, the MART is basically it's run by the three mayors, though, it's proportional voting, so if Fitchburg and whatever Fitchburg, Leominster, and Gardner want, they get, but there's a lot of participation from the towns as well, and I was asked to chair the finance committee, frankly, because I had the most criticism of what was going on, and so we fixed it, so.
You've done this proud.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is Mohammed still the
He
director?
is, yes.
He's not.
I'll talk afterwards.
Any discussion on this one?
waiting.
Board?
Nope,
Pretty
let's go.
straightforward, right?
I'll make a motion to vote to reappoint Keith Bergman to serve as the town of Littleton's designated representative on the Mart Advisory Board for a term starting July 1st, 2016 through June 30th, 2017, and to so notify the Montezut Regional Transit Authority.
AKA Mart. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
But the pizza does make it all worthwhile.
All right. 6, Bennett Orchard subdivision, 2 parts.
And we have Attorney Paul Alphin with us tonight.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Thank you. I don't have to explain this process to you. You're very familiar with it. This is the...
We're all too familiar.
all too familiar with it. I'm really here to answer questions, but I will say that on one of the proposals, the proposal for lots 8 through 28, if the town were not to exercise its right of first refusal to purchase the property for, what's the dollar amount?
3 million.
675.
367.
Yeah.
You get most of it for free anyway, because it's a cluster subdivision, and there's over 19 acres of land that have been set aside and be preserved. And soon, we're gonna come to you and offer that land to the town anyway, as a condition of approval of the subdivision. So I wouldn't expect that the town necessarily would want to buy the project,
Buy
but
what
most of
we're
it's
gonna get.
getting it for
Yeah.
free.
We had that come up in another one recently, so.
So what is that, if I may?
Please.
Where is the open space? What's it consist of?
Parcel A, do you have the plan there?
Do,
No, you don't have the plan?
We have a,
Yeah, we got it.
You got the plan?
we have a small
Is it a small
plan.
plan?
This portion?
You know what? No. I brought the big plan.
Okay, show us the big plan.
Man with a plan.
Let's do this.
So it's all across
That's a good way to do it. See open space parcel A?
Oh, yeah, you can see it further.
Over 19 acres. There's another open space parcel B down here. This is only 3.4 acres. This will go with these 3 lots. These 3 lots are not part of your package today. We agreed with the planning board that would hold off putting those on the market with the idea that perhaps somebody in the community would prefer to purchase this and protect it for agricultural purposes and those lots not be constructed. So these are not on the market. We're not sure when they would go on the market, but we want to give the town or other interested groups the opportunity to purchase those down the road. So the open space parcel that's part of the subdivision lots is the 19 plus acres also includes land that goes down here. So as part of the planning board conditions of approval, that land is first going to be offered to the town for town meeting to accept the land to be controlled by the Board of Selectmen, unless town meeting does something else with the property. But when we present it, we're going to present it to your board for acceptance. And I don't know if I'll end up doing it or whether the subsequent purchaser will do it. But my guess is you'll see me again or a letter from me offering the land of the town to start the process going.
Can I ask a question? There's a small dotted line that starts on Oak Hill Road. Is that a trail that goes all the way through the open space?
Oh, yeah, yes, there is a trail.
But does it hook onto another piece of property someplace? Is it a continuous trail?
Yeah, yes, it is. Runs through the entire open space area.
I guess my question was, I was wondering what was over here. Does it connect to another
Talking
conservation?
about the easement or something other than that?
No, there's a trail, it's a dotted line on the plan, it's just a trail.
It's not on us.
That was created as part of the process. Does it connect with anything? It was my understanding, I could be wrong, because I didn't do this, it was my understanding that it was intended to follow a path that's out there now that people have been using, whether permission or not, I don't know, but it was intended to mirror the pathway that's out there now. And part of the documents that we've already recorded were granted public access.
Yeah, I used to play out there all the time, so I know. But I also know that the whole bottom part is like a three-season pond on the bottom part. Sometimes it dries up in the
Where all the
summer.
wetland is?
Yeah, he's talking about this area where it's shown as wetland,
Yeah,
but it's not wet all the time.
Sometimes, mattering in the season, sometimes the whole season it's filled, but the other times it just dries up. I used to skate there.
I guess my concern is, we're talking about 31.87 acres. For right of first refusal, this is our first time seeing it. I haven't heard nothing in regards to it. The last time we went through a parcel of this size, obviously, there's no huge outcry for it, but for me to make a decision tonight based on the first viewing, I got a real problem with it. What I would like to suggest, and up to the board members, is maybe get a couple board members, sit down with the developer, and get a good briefing as to exactly where they are in stages with the planning board, figure out what town council is a bona fide offer, and then maybe in a subsequent meeting, make a decision, report back, and make a decision. It's a lot of property, and for the first time over, I just, 31 acres, almost 32 acres here, with the two parcels, I got an issue.
May I respond to that
Sure,
just briefly?
absolutely.
You got it.
If I may, I didn't think that this would come up because we have already carved off land off of this project. This project has been approved for some time, and we have submitted other lots on Oak Hill Road.
Yep.
And the board has reviewed those and have released those. So I had anticipated that you were relatively familiar with the project.
Yeah,
And
not
you know what
32
it's all
acres,
about?
though. Not 32 acres. You've come before us and said, well, we got 3 lots we want to do, and there was no connection with the Conservation Commission, no other property that connected through Harvard, and we said, sure, okay, it's a small piece of property. We're talking about 32 acres. That's a big piece of property.
But keep in mind that most of this land is going to the town anyway. That part you're in.
Gotcha.
Your beach, right? Okay. And I will also add, those lots you most recently released were off this same plan, the same approval. It was all part and parcel, the same plan we got approved by the planning board.
But when it came before us, you didn't say 32 acres, you said, hey, we had 3 lots. So we made a decision based on 3 lots.
Just wanted to make sure that
I got
you
you.
understood. Okay, got it.
I'm with you.
All right.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Those are my concerns. Obviously, I'm 1 of 5, so.
Well, can I ask a question? Council, how are you?
Nice to see you, Paul.
Good to see you too, Paul. I was not a part of the board when you were here before on this, obviously, but, so 3, 4, and 5 are the ones that have already been released, and then also,
No,
those are the
3, 4,
ones
no.
those are the ones you're looking for to
Yeah.
release right of first refusal.
these-
1 and 7 were already released. What about 2 and 6?
1, 2, 6, and 7 have been previously released.
Okay.
As well as some other lots down here that were done before the subdivision approved.
And there's already
in these, some lots, no, those are existing lots, but there were 2 other lots down there before.
Okay, 2 and 6 just aren't referenced in my paperwork unless I don't see it. So
Well,
they
it
do.
should,
Because they
yeah,
were-
the
they were
seven
released
should
in
say 2, it's a 1 and 2, and 6 and 7.
Gotcha, all right. And is that some of, there's some construction you can already see going on up on Oak Hill. Is that some of those lots already under construction? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, just to visualize it.
Yep.
Yeah, all right. So the release that's being sought is 3, 4, and 5, and you've been before, have you been before the Conservation Commission on?
Everything's done. This
yeah.
project's fully permitted. It even has all the septic permits.
Can I ask you to characterize whether there was much of a crowd or input on these?
I can say regarding the planning board process, at the end, it was 11. Because the way we had designed the project and preserved what everyone perceived as the most important part of the property.
Yeah.
At the end, working with the planning board, it couldn't have been more of a pleasure to just work out the fine details and get the thing done. Of course, through the public hearing process, as give and take, the number of lots went way down, we worked things out, but by the end, it was fantastic.
So that was with the board. How about, was there much of a public interest in the crowd? Was there much of a crowd there at all? It just wasn't at those meetings. I don't know.
No, there were a couple people from the neighborhood, but once they
Yeah.
saw what was happening and realized what we're doing, especially when we said we're gonna hold off not putting those houses in the market for a while, and we shifted some lots around in order to minimize the impact on the neighbors. Again, we were there for the last couple of meetings of the planning board, which were some time ago. It was kumbaya.
Okay. All right. I just have a similar, maybe not as strong concern that Jim does. It's just the last thing we want, I guess, is to sign off on something, and the first the public hears about it is when they read in the paper that we've signed off about it, and then we get the, the angry calls and the rest of it. So, I kind of get it to the extent that 1, 2, 6, and 7 are already, they're already off and being built, so, any prospective resistance would be how important are those other 3 lots. This is significant property in its general locus because of Oak Hill Reservation being across the street. So it's not, I don't leap to this conclusion on any property. I just think it's worth at least thinking about, has everybody who needed to have an opinion on this had a chance to, to give an opinion on it in its totality, especially since it's been dealt with piecemeal. So, I'm inclined to go along with it in the long run, but I want to feel comfortable that everybody's had a chance to have some say on it. So I don't know what form you want that to have. Jim, you made a suggestion, but I don't know whether anyone else has a procedural way to deal with that other than just scheduling it again and make it clear to folks, what it is we get before us.
I see we have Alex here, so maybe there'll be a story about it in the paper.
Right.
I don't know. We'll make it the word out.
For the record, the Conservation Commission, Conservation Trust have not approached us on this, right?
And I often wonder why, too. Is it because of the location? The land's absolutely beautiful, and
Yeah.
there doesn't seem to be the same interest that we have in other parcels of
And
land.
long before these development proposals were on the table, you'd hear them mention, the Sanderson property at some point, so it's kind of odd that it should fall off their radar screen. Maybe they're just content, maybe you did do such a wonderful job at the planning board.
I trust you'll find that is the reason, is that the net result was we preserved the
There's
most critical parts of the property.
There's 18 acres being set aside as open space.
Mr. Clark?
I attended a fair amount of those meetings, just, work relation, and they did have a couple site walks. At the time this was being approved, Don MacGyver was on the planning board, and he was also Conservation Trust. I know one of the neighbors who lives there is on Conservation Trust, and he was quite involved, and, obviously they don't want to see it go away because they get to use it, but in the end, I think everybody, like we said, was pretty happy. This is one of the first subdivisions, they talked about leaving wildlife corridors and keeping specific trails that they have that do connect to the Oak Hill property and stuff, so they were, as happy as you can be for land going away.
What's the width of that access, the one off of Oak Hill into the back land?
111.
111 feet, okay. I don't know, I guess I could go, I'd be willing, very interested in hearing what the wiser old heads on the board have to say.
Joe?
We all looked right.
I'm not opposed to anything. I think that we just need to take a step back, sit down with the developer, get educated as to what their entire view and mission is, and come back in 2 weeks maybe. I mean, I'd be more than willing to sit down with the folks and listen to them.
And I'd like to
report
have
back.
somebody, whether it's board members or, Keith or whoever, reach out to the trust, or the commission,
Sure.
and say, all right,
Yeah.
we're about ready to
Right,
pull the trigger
if
on this,
they're-
you okay
right,
with this?
If they're on
Yeah.
record, I mean,
Yeah.
the Conservation Commission, as we did, received the notice a month ago.
Right.
And that there has been no input from Conservation or any. Typically, we hear of interest, we heard instantly about interest from Conservation of the
right.
5-acre surplus state property on Boxborough.
I mean, I'd be prepared to
So,
say, unless something new comes to light, I'd be happy to vote for this next time around. I'd just be, much rather be in a position to say, look, we had 2 meetings about it, and you didn't show up then, rather than have somebody say, the first time you looked at it, you voted on it, and then, at points come
Well,
up
what
later.
you may want to do, procedurally, you receive them tonight, and then you vote to make a decision 2 weeks from tonight. I think based on my understanding from what staff has briefed me over the years, if we have the, official position of the Conservation
Right.
Commission and the trust in front of you, that will,
Right.
you'll, I think you'll feel more comfortable.
And we're not in hearing mode, so we don't have to close a hearing, or when there'll still be opportunity for people to speak if we want them to, next time around, right? You don't want them.
If I may, I have a concern. It says proposed right-of-way off Wickham Avenue. Is there something not settled on that they actually can come off? You have Edwards Drive, and it doesn't seem to empty
Let me
into...
show you why. That is the cul-de-sac loop you're looking at.
Right.
You're just looking at a different sheet of the plan, but
Right.
that is nothing is proposed. This is all in stone now. So the subdivision road comes in here.
So it's been engineered.
Okay,
Yep.
the reason I asked for it is because I didn't know whether something went wrong here, they're going to have to use another piece of land to
No,
get...
nothing went wrong.
Now, you represent the Sanderson family?
I do.
Who is the developer?
Well, it's a good question. Through the entire process, the developer has been represented by the engineer, Jeff Brem, and I on behalf of the Sandersons. The Sandersons now put the property on the market, and you see the purchase and sale agreement you have are with Deca Corporation, who's Jim DeCarolis, Peter DeCarolis, who's working in town, and also with Mark Gallagher, and they're going to split the project. But they don't own it yet. All they have is the purchase and sale agreement. They can't proceed to purchase the property unless and until the Board of Selectmen vote not to exercise the option. So meanwhile, I guess Jeff Brem of Meisner Brem Corporation and I are as close as you're going to get to the developer. We are it. The Sanderson family put their faith in us to work this out with the boards and develop a project that was satisfactory to everybody.
Okay, for the record, can you tell us who the lots have been sold to in the past? Have they been sold to somebody?
Yep, they were sold to, don't tell me. Good guy, local guy. Rich Watson.
Now,
And a couple years ago to Roger Canal. Thank you.
No, he was up Wickham Avenue, those lots, right?
Yeah, he built two lots on Wickham, correct, yes.
So in the most recent history, with dealing with 61A, we had the same situation where we had a PNS signed. We were dealing with attorneys, So you had the developer who signed the PNS, the attorneys representing the family, sit down and meet with the Board of Selectmen independently. That's, okay, for two lots, I understand. It comes before the board, okay. If we're gonna stay consistent, I just make the recommendation that we,
I like to get current plans as well. I mean, I don't need a full set of plans, but just something that, you don't have proposed lines, and so we have
so.
a better understanding of.
I'd be willing to do it if there's another board member.
Any objection to Jim being the liaison?
No.
Meet back in 2
Probably
weeks?
a good idea to have two, though,
Yep.
although I'm not clamoring for it. Jim and Chuck?
I'll jump
Yeah.
on it.
Okay.
All right.
Set up a meeting with the proposed, you as representing the Sandersons, folks that signed the PNS. Sometime within the next 2 weeks, we'll get it through Mr. Bergman. We'll set it up and sit down, have a conversation, and hopefully get this wrapped up at our next meeting.
Got it.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I love your time. Great time.
Chuck the second.
Joe, did you want to be the second? I saw you push your chair back when Jim was looking for a second.
Second.
Second what?
Yeah, I'm the second.
Jim and Chuck?
All right, so
Oh, yeah.
Jim and Chuck are the.
I wouldn't mind doing it, but that's fine, that's fine.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Is it possible to just take something out of order?
Sure, you can do whatever you want.
You should take 8.
8D? That would be the one. I would love to do that.
Madam Chair, since, before you do that, I was going to say, I was going to request for our next item, I got it in the packet this weekend, the regulations and policies, but I haven't had enough time to go through it in detail. I would appreciate it if we table that for.
You know, we do that at least twice every year. We put it on the
Table it,
agenda
yeah.
and table
That's,
it.
you know what, I don't mind that as a procedure, it keeps things in
No.
front of you, but I just haven't had enough time to review
No,
it,
but
you know.
invariably we do it because the rest of the agenda takes
Right.
over.
Too long?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
I think he's tabling it until September.
No, I'm not. I intend this board to be real busy in July and August.
We're very busy at the next meeting though, so you
Yes.
might want to put
Yeah.
it, including goal setting on the
Which
20th.
probably will be first stab, right?
Right.
Yes. And it's on the, I know it's on the webpage, but is there any chance you could, on the goals, could that document be emailed out or a hard copy be
Yeah.
made? You know, why should my printer be?
Piece of paper like that, or?
Yeah, something just like this.
And just, I know on our list of things was a social media policy, and we do have a draft of that, so I could also send it, via email. You can take a look and we can talk about it.
My suggestion would be that we reschedule the review policies for July.
Yeah.
Just because I know June 20 is going to be.
Yeah, it's gonna, if it gets dealt with, it'll be short shrift, it won't be done.
So reschedule.
Okay, very good. So we have rescheduled item 7 to July sometime.
Yeah, July 11th.
July 11th? Okay, great. And then we're just going a little bit out of order here to 8D, establish special gift fund for veterans assistance. So, recently, we lost a great member of the community, Mr. Paul Schimmel, who is the father of our town clerk, Diane Corey, who is here. So sorry, for your loss, and I think this is a wonderful idea, so tell us about what you'd like to do.
So basically, we wanted to do something in honor of my dad, and I spoke with John Borowski and asked him, was there something, a fund or something that we could establish? Was there a special veterans that he was thinking of, and he said he didn't like to, set something, aside, one veterans agency over another, and he said, well, what about something for the town of Littleton? I thought, that's great, why not give it back to the town of Littleton? We're a small community, we love the town of Littleton, and we all grew up here, my heart is here, my family is here, so John said, we need to talk to Bonnie. So speaking with Bonnie, she said, this is what we have to do. We have to, come before the board and set it up the right way. So I'm here this evening to, ask.
Bonnie said she already has checks.
Yes.
They're holding them. So-
Yeah.
And I actually, on behalf of our family as well, we have a check for $500 that we'd like to donate in my dad's name for you, so.
Fantastic.
And so we, I thank you all, for accepting this, and it means a lot to us, for the veterans, especially because, they're don't always get the money that they deserve, and it's a way to give back to our veterans, and they truly deserve it. And in the future, not just for my dad, to honor him, but other people that pass, if they choose to do the same thing, it's a wonderful thing that you can do in honor of their parents or their siblings or their loved ones, and to remember our veterans.
Absolutely. Admirable.
I just had one quick question. Was there any specific need or anything that you were thinking of, or did you just tell John, it's whatever you want, John?
Whatever the veterans need.
Gotcha. All right, that's what I was trying to say, so that's awesome.
Any other comments? Or?
I grew up down the
Great idea.
street. Papa Smurf, we used to call him. He was a great guy.
Great guy. Great family.
Why don't you read it then, Joe? Why don't you read it for Papa Smurf then?
What's that?
Motion.
Make the motion.
Oh, make the motion. I thought you said Joe.
Did, I think.
All right, move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, subsection 53A, to establish a special gift fund account, the proceeds of which shall be used without further appropriation by the Veterans Agent to assist the needs of Littleton's veterans and to receive for this purpose gifts in memory of Paul Schimmel of Littleton, a World War Navy veteran who passed on May 24, 2016, as requested by Town Clerk Diane Croy.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Way to give back and show memory all at the same time.
Yep, it's
Great.
awesome.
Thanks for seeding the fund, too.
Yes. Okay, 8A. First one is intermunicipal agreements with Foxborough. We're really doing a lot with those guys these days. Chief, first up is animal control, which is something we've been doing for a little while now.
It's our third year.
Here,
Uh,
going
You know,
good?
it's been going good. It's definitely better than we had. The price is getting to a price point though where I am gonna be exploring for this budget season coming up, I guess would be fiscal 18. Maybe some changes, it's now running around $34,000 a year. And that's getting to the point where we could have, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have the personnel committee grade what an animal
Now that you
control
have the
officer.
dog.
What'd you say? Now that we have the dog.
24,000 or 34,000?
It's 24 for the agreement, but with Foxborough, but there's a reserve for other expenses, kennels. and-
There's the kenneling fees, there's,
Do we recoup any of that money for dogs that we,
we do recoup some. Unfortunately, the two largest ones we had last year, the owner went to prison, so we didn't recoup anything, out of a 3-month quarantine, so we basically got, stuck with that deal down on Green Needles. So, the money is there, hopefully, this year it's actually been running pretty good, we haven't had, I'm not gonna say it out loud, we haven't had too many issues yet. So, the process works well, but, I'm just, gonna take a look and see what, other options may or may not be out there.
Okay.
It beats not having the service
Yeah,
at all, which
Right.
is what we,
Which will, by law, we have to have the service.
We always bid luck. Any questions on this one, guys? I appreciate that you're looking out for this and going, okay, this was the right choice, up until a certain point, maybe not now, so let's do this now and evaluate that. Thank you. Any questions? or
I have one.
comments? Yeah.
And it's probably been asked in the past, Chief, but when it says animal control services, does it include all animals? I mean, if there's, not just dogs, but if there's a wild animal or a large farm animal, does this person?
It is not part of their purview. However, she does come out and assist the PD when we have, wild animal issues. That's part of the other reason I'm starting to explore this, because obviously, there's more bobcats around now, there's more bears around, there's more everything around that we're dealing with on a regular basis, so we're trying to expand that.
Squirrels.
So right now, it's not part of
That
the
is correct,
services.
that is correct.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, subsection 4A, to authorize execution of an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Boxborough for provision by Boxborough of animal control officer services to Littleton, with a term from July 1, 2016, June 30, 2017, at the cost of $24,492.
So moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, chief. And there's just one quick thing here, you might not want to go far. But 8A2 is LCTV, where am I going?
This is the provision by
Services.
Littleton of services to Boxborough, and we
Yeah.
provide them with cable TV services. And
Good
this will
part
be-
is it's a bigger number coming back this way.
Yeah, that I like.
The number went down actually, only because last year's agreement was 14 months, this year's 12. So, but the,
Was it a programming issue?
no, that they,
Ratings are
no,
down.
that they had, we started,
Ratings are only
it- no,
going
we
up.
started it in May, because when we first entered into the agreement, they wanted LCTV to do their town meetings
Right.
for them, so we, rather than wait till July 1st, we started early. But there have been some minor adjustments in the language, and I think on the apples to apples basis, it went up, well, let's see, last year, I don't know if I have that number handy, but I think it was about a $54,000 annualized cost for year one, and it's $57,700 for year two. It's going up a little bit.
And how's it going? Do we have any, I know I could talk to those guys, but any, not overstretched, it's working out good? Do we know we have feedback from Mark and Kirby?
It's going very well. We increased our staffing levels based on the additional funding. So Kirby's job, for example, went from a half-time to a full-time
Right, yeah, that's right.
job in part, because we had this additional money coming in.
My feedback from them is that definitely is a demand for the services.
Yeah.
being provided, So,
So are we getting many supplemental services out of them?
well, we did define better the per hourly rate, should they require some additional meetings that weren't defined in the original contract per person. So I think that, we better account for those costs now.
Yeah, because that's a nice supplemental wage.
Any other questions, board members? Look for a motion.
Move the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, subsection 4A, to authorize execution of an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Boxborough, provisions by Littleton of LCTV services to Boxborough for a period July 1, 2016 to June 30, 2017, for $57,700, with supplemental services at $85 per hour.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good, thank you, LCTV.
Two
Okay,
more police measures.
chief,
Should have
cops.
put the LCTV first.
Cops.
Wasn't going anywhere either way, so.
That's exactly what I'm thinking in my head right
I
now.
know
That's
you
all
are.
I can think. Bad boys, bad boys. Cops, hiring
Cops.
program, grant application.
This is the same program we applied for last year. We fell about 5 points short on the grant app. This is just to ask you, give me permission to put in for it. As you know, you gave me permission for the 18th officer. This is the same exact grant we wrote last year, other than we tweaked it a little bit. We went and looked at the other grants that were winners and found out, well, okay, where we might have been a little bit weak, where we could strengthen our grant proposal. This is strictly, we currently have the school resource officer. However, it's a shared position with the detective's position. And, I'd just like to say real briefly, part of the new, I guess not to date myself, but when I started back in '82, it was all about law enforcement. All, we really did was go someplace, do some law enforcement related activity, which would typically be arrest somebody or something like that. And, that's what we did back then. Well, today, that's not the way things work anymore. I mean, I have, between the 3 school resource officers we've had over the years, Matt Pinard, Pablo Fernandez, and now Mike Crory, I see the huge impact that they make in that high school and in the schools. And I really see the need to have a person who's strictly dedicated to the juveniles and to the young men and women of this town, totally. They'd also be the juvenile detective, but strictly would stay within the schools. Right now, when we have a large investigation, or a large drug investigation, or anything else, between Mike and, Sergeant Fernandez and Detective Crory, he's getting pulled out of the school on a weekly, normally on somewhat a weekly basis to assist with caseload, because we don't have any choice. Obviously, this grant is not the panacea, we gave you the same breakdown we did last year. The biggest change here, of course, is OPEB has almost tripled as to what it used to be. So that was the biggest, that's why the biggest rise here happened in the differences when we updated with Bonnie. But I think, the need is there. I was gonna be coming back to you in September to talk about the 19th, as you remember, when you approved me the 18th, you approved me to come back and talk to you about the 19th officer in September at that point, because we knew what the town's, we were gonna, talk over the summer with Bonnie and see where the town's finances were. So really at this point, all I'm looking for is permission to, we can turn down the grant if we get it, if we find that it just isn't affordable to us as a community, or something we, that the board in the end decides it doesn't want or need. But to not put in for it, I think at this point would be, and that's kind of what, last year how we did it, and unfortunately, we were, I guess, we were a few points short, and I'm hoping we're not a few points short this year.
And you learn from the experience, good. Board members, Mr. Cobb?
Now, for the grant application, I got no problem with it. Yeah. 19th officer, full-time officer, we'll have to talk, but as far as the grant application, I have no problem with it.
I get the same feeling, because I would have questions about what we would do after 3 years and how to fund this, but we can wait until see whether the grant comes in.
Mr. DeGos?
I'm gonna go.
Same.
I'm fine with the application, just have a couple of questions. I'm curious, if you say last year we were off by about 5 points, what were the sort of things that were differentials?
Well, some of the stuff that is in our control is, our crime rates,
demographic stuff,
our demographics, things like that. We took a harder look at some of the things, it's, the towns that got them were towns our size, it's just there, we were within points, and we also went back and, really tried to strengthen language and strengthened our, I wouldn't say our commitment was weak by any means, but I think we really went in there and tweaked the commitment to our school programs and things like that. And I would say to you, again, to the trepidations about 19 officers, my size right now would be 22 officers if I had my way, and if I could get the money to do it. And I can explain to you why later, but, we're a growing community, if you look at the demographics around us, it's not just us, it's what comes through and flows through our community. We're not the same as a typical 10,000 person community. And, we can't operate, that way, and I will not, or I don't want to get caught behind any kind of an 8 ball, but my concentration here is in today's world, the more I can get police officers interacting with the young men and women and that's not only my patrols getting in there, the canines there constantly now, we're gonna have the bike patrols down there, but the more I can get police officers integrated with the young men and women as they're growing up, I'm hoping we can get involved, because law enforcement today is not just about police work, it's about social work, it's about psychology. The mental health issues we're dealing with on a daily basis are dangerous. The officers have been assaulted, not weekly, but, on a monthly basis. We've had physical confrontations, and that's not only in the high school, that's not only in the middle school, that's not only on the streets of our town. It's just the call volume for that type of call is going up.
The second point I was going to ask you, Chief, is about the school resource officer. Is it part of an ongoing plan to rotate officers in there so more of them get that kind of direct involvement, or you just, once somebody's placed there, that they're there until they opt to choose to move on?
It's the person that goes in there really has to want to be there, number one.
Right.
Because it's a different type of, not all people sign up to be in that type of a system.
Yeah, but as you just said, there's value
Oh,
for
absolutely.
all
But
members of the
that's what
department.
we're-
yeah.
That's why, when we did the grant, what we did is put a lot more of the officers who aren't permanently assigned necessarily stopping in, especially in the lower grades. Right now, the SRO really is basically in the high school. I mean, it's, that's all he really has the time to do. With the full-time SRO, we're seeing more in the middle school, and we're gonna let the regular patrols handle more of hitting the recesses, hitting the lunch days and things like that. And, because, I see personally that, to increase, police legitimacy in the way that things are moving is it's gotta be a comfort level. It has to be, we have to build that trust from the time they're 5 years old till the time they grow up. And, it's definitely a need.
Great.
Okay, no other discussion, look for a motion.
I'll move that the Board of Selectmen vote to authorize submission of an application of the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services under its fiscal year 2016 COPS hiring program for $125,000 for a 3-year grant for up to 75% of the cost of salary and benefits for one additional patrolman to be assigned as school resource officer.
Second.
So moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There's one thing I wanted to add to that, which I forgot, and you mentioned you didn't want to date yourself, but I will. Chief had his 34-year anniversary with Littleton last week, so.
Congratulations.
Okay, moving right along,
Dad on that
procurement.
was my dad's 89th birthday today.
Wow, awesome. Congratulations. Happy birthday.
Move right along, they had,
Can we ask the chief to sing happy birthday?
you don't want to hear that.
Yes, I do.
Can we wait till the cameras are off?
Dad's not at home watching?
At the annual town meeting, the town meeting approved the purchase of the two police cruisers. This is the build sheet for the two cruisers. Town meeting approved $106,140. The two cruisers cost $103,220. There are some smaller items that we haven't purchased yet for them, like the handheld radars, things of that nature. That's where the difference is, but, MHQ, we use the Greater Boston Police Council bid, which is the state bid, and also Plymouth County state bid to procure the vehicles. This is our standard procedure every year.
So you would just spend that delta on the handheld stick.
Right.
Boy, it went up 20 grand, huh? 30 grand used to be 32, 34, 50 grand each? Really?
They were 48 last year.
Were they really?
Yeah. About 29,000 for the cruiser, about 21,000 for equipment. Okay.
MHQ.
Okay, any questions? Chief, for a motion?
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, pursuant to Article 7 of the May 2nd, 2016 Annual Town Meeting to authorize procurement from MHQ Municipal Vehicles, Marlborough, Mass, under Greater Boston Police Council and Plymouth County bid contracts of two marked and equipped 2017 Ford Utility Police Interceptor vehicles totaling $103,330.
So moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Two new interceptors. Excellent.
Chief.
Thank you, Chief. That brings us to minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes.
You have a chance to go over the May 9th minutes, and whether it was Jennifer or whoever captured my sentiments exactly, didn't throw anyone else in there other than the board agreed comment, but I'm good with that, that's fine.
Thank you. Nice job, Jim. Whoever took care of it.
Very good. I'd look for a motion to approve the May 9th, 2016 Board of Selectmen meeting minutes.
Second.
So moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. 23rd, any concerns?
No, I read those are fine.
Yeah, no, I'm just.
Much more required at that meeting.
Just asking, just asking.
You the chairman again?
Move. What? The clerk does this.
Yes. Indeed.
Doing great.
Good team.
Move that the Board of Selectmen approve the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes for Monday, May 23rd, 2016.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Remember, we have the meeting tomorrow night.
Right.
Tomorrow
7
night,
o'clock.
7
With the
p.m.
finance committee and our auditor.
And our auditor.
Review the.
Good results.
That sounds like fun.
Look for one more motion, thank you.
No, you can't do that. That's what you do.
Just did it. You don't have to
Kill me.
second it if you don't want.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That was an adjournment motion, was it? So I can throw the switch?
That
Yes,
was.
please.
Throw the switch.